school as the government had disbursed funds to the institutions.
Kuna walimu wengine ati wanafukuza watoto waende nyumbani, ati waende walete school fees ya mambo ya JSS. Si ndio? Wacha mimi nitangaze nikiwa hapa Makenji. Nyinyi walimu ambao mko na hiyo tabia mtakoma. Kwa sababu tumetoa, serikali ya Kenya imetoa bilioni 7.5 ya pesa ya watoto wa JSS. Hakuna school fees inahitajika mtoto waende grade 7 ama JSS. Sijui kama tunaelewana. Kama kuna mtoto wenu mwenye ako nyumbani leo ati kwa sababu aliambiwa aende fees, kesho arudi shuleni bila pesa yoyote, kwa sababu serikali ya Kenya imetoa pesa ya kusomesha watoto wetu wote.
And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has urged Gataga MP Edward Muriu to focus on local development rather than national politics. Gachagua had accompanied President William Ruto in the area to launch community water projects. Gachagua advised Muriu to refrain from extending his political influence into national politics and concentrate on Gataga. He suggested that this strategy would enhance his chances of securing re-election for a second term. Meanwhile, the Deputy President also urged Mount Kenya leaders to work together in synergy to be able to realize the aspirations of the Kenya Kwanza government.
Sisi tukichagua huyu rais wetu tulishikana, na tunataka tukae namna hiyo tukimuunga mkono hapo mbele, kwa sababu tukigawanya tutaharibu umoja wetu. Na sisi lazima tukae kama one family, vile John Michoki alituambia. Na ndio nimewaambia hao viongozi wetu wote, kila mtu afuate ndoto yake, lakini matamushi ambaye naweza gawanya watu tuchunge, na wale ambaye ni wachanga wakuje tuwapatie mawaidha kama wazee.
Lawmakers have rejected the proposal by the government for persons seeking houses under President William Ruto's affordable housing plan to deposit 10% of the value. After weeks of public participation on the Affordable Housing Bill 2023, the Joint Committees on Finance and that of Housing have recommended the clause providing for the deposit be deleted. A reading of the report by the committee co-chaired by Molo MP Kimani Kuria and his Emurua Dikir counterpart Johanna Ngeno shows that MPs employed a give-and-take approach in the contentious legislation. In a blow to hustlers, MPs have stretched their deductions beyond salaried persons and recommended that the same apply to income earned by persons in the informal sector. The courts in the ruling against the Finance Act 2023 raised questions on whether the levy was discriminatory if only applied to people who are salaried. Leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah said the committee has provided safeguards in the amendments to the question.
People in Mathare will now have decent housing where they don't have to go through the indignity of having to use flying toilets on a Bospika. We will give them dignified settlements where they can live as human beings.
Tell me now, who in Kenya is going to afford the 10% of the value of the affordable housing unit? Who? What we are simply doing is to create opportunities for the people who are already property, like you and me, people who are already wealthy, to be able to use proxies to deposit the 10% of the value of those units and acquire as many units as possible.
And in the slum areas, Mr. Speaker, people live in deplorable conditions, which every Kenyan who think this particular bill of housing is not necessary.
Makadara Law Court has freed two Nigerian nationals who had been arrested in connection to the murder of JKUAT student Rita Waini since last month. The court had allowed police to detain the two to allow them complete investigations into the case. Magistrate Agnes Mwangi, while releasing the suspects, directed that they appear before the investigators once a week. Waini was found dead on January 14th in a short-stay apartment in Roysambu area, Nairobi, where her body had been dismembered by her suspected killer. Now, Abraham Mwangi, the owner of the tanker that exploded in Embakasi and Mradi area, will be in detention for 14 more days to allow police complete investigations. Senior Principal Magistrate Martha Nanzushi says he'll be held at the Capitol Hill Police Station for the said duration. His case will be mentioned on February 28th. This is News. I'm Dennis Asada. Good morning.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk that midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Well.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe za baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Ndutha, nice meeting you. Yeah. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again.
Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you see. So that is why the attitude that you are showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
Okay, what does Friday morning have in store? Let's start with what's happening on the eastern side of the city. A little bit of movement here and there on Jogo Road, but nothing that you need to get anything in a twist over. It's coming off of Thika Superhighway. You look good as well. You'll be fine. United Nations Avenue, then coming in through towards Limuru Road. Also, everything right now free and clear. We are getting into the weekend, so the likelihood of heightened traffic is low. We're going to keep an eye on things as we get into the morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag #TheSituationRoom.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
How are you doing? Happy Friday, Ndu Okoh.
Happy Friday, Eric Latiff.
Mambo vipi?
Salama kabisa. Na wewe je?
Mimi pia.
Wewe je?
Nashukuru Mungu.
Nimefurahi kukuona leo asubuhi.
Umefurahi?
Yeah.
Hata mimi by the way imagine nimefurahi.
Sababu umejiona. Mama nini?
Sababu nimejiona. How are you, everybody? Welcome to Friday. How many more Fridays till the end of February?
2.
Hey. See, this February it's the 29th February.
No, one more Friday. After this one more. Because 29th is a Thursday. Yeah. 1st of March is
so next Friday.
Next Friday is the last Friday of February.
And then 29 years is a Thursday.
Yeah. January, you really you ought to learn from your follower. January should learn from February how to operate. Yeah.
Like that. And then March will have its 6 Fridays. My goodness. Actually, March has 5 Fridays. April 4. Fools. Okay. Ni sawa. Tutasurvive.
Tutakuwa tu sawa.
Tutasurvive. Si dola ilipanda ikashuka. Na itapanda tu tena. Hii Kenya.
The situation is temporal.
Hatusombolewe na mtu. Hatustuki sisi. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. How is the stream working today? I hope it's working well. I hope it's going to behave. Ednah has done a lot of work. Please.
Ednah amesumbuliwa na hiki
sana. No. Unafanya mtoto wa watu hata hajakula siku 3.
Juu ya hii stream.
No.
Hii lazima tutetee Ednah.
Aki
ya nani. It's been stressful.
So today, these are the conversations that we will be having. 7 a.m., we talk about housing. There's a housing deficit in Africa. What is the solution? Okay. Somebody who is in the real estate space, Mwenda Dhuranera, is the CEO of MySpace Properties, joins us at 7 a.m. for that conversation. At 8 o'clock, we know what happened in Kirinyaga County the other day. 13 people died after consuming some brew. Then it turns out to be some brew had been arrested and impounded by police. Police keep it in store. Police release it from the store. So the brew walked. It wasn't released by police.
The brew found its way out of police custody.
The brew had been kept there with its lawyer. Then the brew walked
out, just like previous happenings in Muthaiga.
Yep.
Okay.
It found its way into certain bar. Now the question is, why didn't we arrest this brew
when we could?
People died. However, the Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya, ABAC, has issues that it's taking with the national government and counties and saying there are measures that you're taking that are leading to people actually moving towards illicit brew. And then there are measures that you're taking under the guise of fighting illicit alcoholism, alcohol in Mount Kenya and other regions, which is basically just driving that business underground. So people are still consuming, but you will not net them. And
will not find them.
It is not good. Eric Kedua is a chairman of the Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya. He will join us at 8 a.m. for that conversation. 9 a.m. is our Health Friday conversation. Psychologist at Chiroma Hospital Group, Arthur Muturi, joins us. Mental health awareness, men and the boy child. They should be part of the equation. Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
And let's talk about the very, very many cases of suicide by men in this country of Kenya. Remember, there's a time when there were stories about Nyandarua County being leading in cases of suicide. Like every month there were double-digit cases reported.
People taking their own lives.
Yeah.
We saw
What's happening? All of them men.
Yeah. We saw a story last week, a gentleman in Kasarani who threw himself off the side of the building.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous.
What's happening? And what is that men are dealing with? And how do we support them as a society? So, those are the conversations. We're here. CT is now
wrapping things
up. He'll be approaching Nairobi hopefully over the weekend. After that, a very successful men's conference. 16 minutes after 6, the live stream is up. We know what you need to do. You just need to get online and say hello. Oh, man, I've just remembered Kaiser Obed, the late Kaiser Obed. By now, he'd have sent a message.
Yeah.
Hello, my senior. Call me present. Rest in peace, Kaiser. Rest in peace.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 17. It's cloudy at 13 in Nakuru, going to highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 27, and a partly cloudy Nyeri at 12. It's 13 and clear in Eldoret, highs of 27. And looking into a partly cloudy Mombasa at 25, we'll see highs of 33. We'll see highs of 33 as well in a mostly clear Malindi at 26. Kisumu is cloudy at 19, highs of 30. And at 17, Kakamega is cloudy, going to highs of 32. Mostly clear in Kampala this morning at 20 with highs of 29. While in Dar es Salaam it's partly cloudy at 27. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. Johannesburg is partly cloudy. There are huge fire conditions in Johannesburg. Highs of 30 and lows of 17. Mogadishu at 25 is partly sunny, highs of 33, and Addis Ababa is cloudy at 13, going to highs of 21 and lows of 12. Partly cloudy conditions at 27 in Lagos with highs of 34, while in Kinshasa it's clear at 25, we'll see highs of 33. Beijing Friday afternoon is sunny at 5, highs of 9 and lows of -1. While Paris is cloudy at 14, we'll see lows of 6 at 12 degrees. London is cloudy, highs of 14 and lows of 8. And Thursday night is clear in New York at 2 degrees, coming into Friday, highs of 3 and lows of 1.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
18
Nairobi.
minutes after 6.
Morning, Wadao. Long time, says Kenneth Bushnell. Indeed, where have you been? Sabit Yusuf says, thank God we made it to Friday. Good morning, Ednah, Ndusiti, Eric. My best regards to everyone and enjoy your weekend. Jimmy Gakio says, good morning, Team Spice. Happy Kamata Friday. Is it a thing? Joe Mungai says, good morning, happy Friday. The Kikombe says, may your bank account's emotional state never ever depend entirely on the mood swings of the US dollar. Okay. Atticus now says it should be called Chapa Karao Friday. Okay. Joram Momba says, good morning. Beautiful day it is. Proud to be Kenyan. Miriam Wairimo says, good morning. Magical Voices. Glad to have you making our mornings. Have a blessed weekend ahead. Wairimo from Kajiado. Good morning, Wairimo. John Jokahato says, Salamu Tele, it's already the 16th. Let us refuse to die. We are refused to die. So George Gashori says, good morning, Ndu Charles, Edna, Eric, weekend time, Anza, have a great day. Rogers Nyange. Good morning, Team Spice, listening in from Voi, Taita, Taveta. Joel Odondi says, Kansas City is not left behind. We are ready. You are ready. The Situation Room is where to be. Karibu Sana. Robert Mbogo is tuning from Mombasa. Dr. Venvik is tuned in and says, Ambia Baba atukumbuke akienda.
Kienda Addis.
Oh, Baba. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Utukumbuke. Baba. Unapoenda Addis Tamba utukumbuke.
Tukumbuke. Ukikula njera. Okay, sorry. Ricardo Mariera says, good morning, tuned in from Bosongo, Chituka. Okay. Desmond, also, we've seen you here. And Gor Chamge, my beautiful people, good morning to you. Sikunjema Pia. Wiki Aaron says, good morning, wise people. Kindly let CT share the deliberations from the men's conference. Yes, when he comes back, we shall insist.
Where? If you were not there.
If you were not there, you missed out. It's over.
Yeah.
Don't come and ask for bakshish. Okay.
It was for the attendees.
In short, the brew can get it. That's what Jimmy Gakio is saying. Exactly. Ongani Malala says, good morning, tuned in. Enjoy your Friday. Dan Ombati also says, good morning. Tulipe Ushuru Waibe. Wow, okay. Martin Wangewa says, good morning, tuned in from Mweki. Kennedy Anyona is tuned in this morning and says, thank God it's Friday. Willis Koi says he's also tuned in from Kakamega County this morning. Dennis Kiprop says good morning. He's tuned in from Kasarani this morning. Everybody's online today. Karibu. Thanks for joining us.
Oh. Higher. I am looking at these proverbs.
They've overtaken you with meaning.
Yeah. This one, we've heard it before, but it wasn't from Angola. It must have been from another country. Don't despise the nut. One day, it will be a what?
A big oak tree.
A palm tree.
A palm tree.
This one, what country was it from?
I can't remember, but we did with some. We've had something like this before.
Yeah.
Don't despise the nut. One day it will be a big palm tree. Yeah. Never look over small beginnings. I can't remember, but it was not from the same country. Isn't that the thing about African proverbs? That
they're all African. Africa is one big country.
Exactly. Everybody has, it's in a different language, whatever, but,
saying the same kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, then let's not do that one. Let's do this one. In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
That's a good one.
It is.
Let's hear what our guests will be saying today. In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten. All right, these are proverbs from Angola the whole of this week. Today is the final proverb from the Republic of Angola. Okay, headlines.
Raila, why I want to be Africa's CEO. Raila Odinga, the master of Kenya's politics, is going for the top continental job. And in a twist of irony, he will require the backing of his fiercest critic, President Ruto, to actualize it. Yesterday, Olusegun Obasanjo met with Ruto after a surprise announcement. So indeed, there's Raila Odinga on the front page. He's flanked by former Nigeria President Olusegun Obasanjo in Nairobi. And he also met with President William Ruto. It's a nice meeting of friends there, is it not? KQ resumes flights to Mogadishu. Okay, I did not know that. Stop. Fresh hope as shilling rebounds. Has it really rebounded is the question. The Kenyan currency hit a new high against the dollar after the Treasury booked billions from investors to pay off a $2 billion Euro bond. Transition. The judge who tried to save Kenya. The man who proposed a cure for the senseless tribal violence that plagued Kenya at the advent of multipartyism in 1991 has exited the scene. Akilano Molade Akiwumi's distinguished career saw him serve 14 years on the Kenyan bench. Threats to roses as changing climate wilts the love symbol. So you might have to start using a different flower to show your love.
Yeah.
Think other flowers now.
But the roses are no longer red.
You may not find them in plenty, is what they're saying, because of changing climate.
Roses are not rosy.
They're not rosy. Power struggle rocks counties. The acrimony, this is on the front page of The Nation. The acrimony that has characterized the president's tour of Kiambu, where warring political factions have disrupted meetings, highlights the escalating supremacy wars between governors and other leaders. Grievances about dishonored pre-election pacts and 2027 succession politics have sowed the discord amid ouster threats. The Nation takes on a different headline. Why the shilling is gaining ground is the question that's being asked. And, of course, how AU bid affects Raila's political game. On the back page of The Nation, That's a story that's being followed. Why the shilling is gaining ground. Over.
Yeah. The Business Daily, the front page of the Business Daily. Panic dollar trades and dramatic day for the Kenya shilling. Cash hoarders who flooded the market to dump their stash of US dollars in panic trades at a time that the country was receiving significant inflows from foreign buyers of the infrastructure bond, and rising investor confidence caused the sharp appreciation of the Kenya shilling in the past 2 days. That's that explanation that's in the back page of the Nation.
Voila, yes.
It's the same. The shilling's surge to its strongest level since June 2023 on Thursday also came days after the CBK was seen policing the forex market, persuading banks against making aggressive dollar bids in a change of tack. Some commercial banks sold the shilling for as low as 139 bob.
Good Lord.
139 shillings.
Yesterday.
Yes.
It's craziness.
Compared to Wednesday's average of 153, reflecting the volatility that crept into the market as a result of hii maneno yote. The spot rate in the interbank market stood at 146 to the dollar by 4 p.m. yesterday, representing a 4.7% drop on the CBK's official closing of 153. CBK is saying we are closing at 153. Market is saying an average of 146, meaning Kedo 140. This, according to forex traders, forced the CBK to intervene by buying dollars to stop the shilling from racing lower too quickly. What's wrong with that? The CBK normally steps into the market to iron out volatility with dollar purchases when the shilling is gaining too quickly or it's losing too quickly. Early in the week, the regulator had injected some dollars into the market, while a dealer said, while routine sales by exporters on Wednesday, mainly KTDA, also raised the supply of dollars. So there were many factors. KTDA were earning dollars. They're about to start paying the people in shillings, dollars in the market. Eurobond, dollars. Infrastructure bond. Foreign investors are buying the infrastructure bond in shillings. Dollar in the market. Dollar.
But no, it's not good for some people. You know that there's that article you sent earlier this morning where business people are suffering big time. So you can imagine you bought dollars in order to buy product.
The importer.
Right? The importer spent 165, 166 shillings per dollar.
Yes.
And you brought your goods based on that rate. Okay? And you also had stock based on that rate. So if you are in competition and you're selling this product and you bought for X amount of dollars, you've then brought them into the country and they've landed and the rate that day is 140 shillings. You lose a huge amount of money before you even sell one thing. And then who is going to buy when the price has reduced? Do you understand the dilemma? It's not a small something, man.
Let me see your story. I don't get it.
You don't get what?
That story.
Of losing stock. Okay, let me explain to you.
Explain it, please, slowly. Use a product.
Lipstick.
Okay. Lipstick.
You're importing it.
How much is it in the market as you are importing? In the Okoh market.
So let's say it costs $10 on the other side. All right?
Okay.
In order for you to buy one, you're going to spend $16.50.
Okay.
All right? And you've also you had other stock. It was $16.50.
Okay.
Right? The person who is buying it today will spend $13.90.
Okay.
To buy the same thing. And so if they're going to put a markup on it, right? Who knows? Whatever they're going to put it, but they've bought it for less.
Okay.
You bought the same thing just a few days ago for more.
Okay.
Where you could have bought it for much less. So you see now how you spent more than you would have been able to if you did it this week, right? And it is landing now at the same time as these other people who've bought. So you've not lost in the sense that you've spent money today, but you've lost in the sense that I bought it at this week. I could have bought it at this, so I spent a lot more money in a shorter period than I would have if I did it today. You see, could have spent less.
So
now, how do you know? How will you know how much you will sell it? You go at a loss.
See how much you wanted to sell it for.
Yeah, but who will buy when the person who is next to you will sell it at a cheaper price?
The person next to me is buying now, is ordering now. It's going to take a while for their stock to arrive.
But now, and
if my stock in the market, I have 2 weeks lead time.
And people will say, "Why is this thing so expensive?" First of all, because
why are they asking?
Because I think they're the one buying it from you.
Yeah, but there's nobody else who's selling it.
This is
everybody whose stock is in the market right now bought it at 165.
I get what you're saying, but this is the whole thing of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. That had I known, I would not have spent as much shilling to purchase the dollar.
Yeah,
I would not have spent
because you were buying in large stock, anticipating that the dollar may actually appreciate
exactly.
further.
Absolutely.
So you bought thinking, oh my God, if I don't buy now at 160, the next time I'm going to buy, it's going to be 200.
170, 180.
So let me buy
now, and let me buy a lot.
Months.
Then you buy a lot, and then you find out the thing has dropped by 15 shillings.
Okay. And then now the next guy goes and buys a lot at 140. You're a lot and they're a lot.
It's not allotting. It's not allotted.
Nimeona hiyo kizungu.
Nimeona sasa.
Nimeona. Higher. Chika headlines. Win for Kenyan tea as Tanzania lifts ban. Tanzania has reversed its decision to suspend imports of tea, presenting a window for Kenyan traders to resume exports of the green leaf to the neighboring country. Nini mbaya na Tanzania?
Kwa nini?
They had banned our tea.
Yeah. Every now and then I have to,
Can we move Tanzania somewhere else? We bring Burundi closer. Surely these guys.
They're disturbing you?
Yeah.
Don't worry.
They had banned our tea. Now they have lifted the tea ban. We don't know how long it's going to last. State plans new hospitals audit ahead of shift deductions. The Ministry of Health will recategorize all hospitals before they are empaneled by the Social Health Insurance Fund to eliminate fraud that has seen taxpayers lose billions through. Hii kazi si wangefanya wakifanya. Anyway. Workers with a monthly income of up to 200,000 shillings can now tap to the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company loans after the state-backed lender increased the income limit for borrowers. Initially, it was 150. Now they've said, you want KMRC, you earn 200,000, you can actually also do KMRC. Do KMRC, go to your circle, go to your
It used
bank.
to be for people who are earning
150 and less.
Okay.
Now they've said 200 and less.
You can also join.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Sindio? Yeah. Higher, the Star.
The Star. Leo hakuna burnt brown. I don't know what happened. Imagine.
What's there?
Is it because City is not here?
What's there?
An ad.
On the top left, right corner.
Top right corner, there's no burnt brown.
An advert for what?
City Mozart.
Bet.
Hey, Bana, this is not fair. If City were here, it would have caused the ruckus. But how about we look at this fascinating picture of bleeding green Olusegun Obasanjo. He's wearing kaftan with canvas shoe, with sneakers. Very nice.
And they're all green.
No, the sneakers are white.
Okay.
But his kaftan is green.
Kaftan is what?
Kaftan is this.
It's the robe.
It's not a robe. No, the robe is agbada. This is kaftan.
Kaftan is the kanzu.
But it has trousers, so
okay.
Kaftan is actually the kanzu.
Okay.
That's what it is. You can have short ones, long ones. Very nice kind of thing. So, Raila, Ruto, AU pact, jitters rock Azimio. Why no? Because who will lead us if he goes? Tsunami Odinga decision to go for commission chair sends shockwaves through the coalition. What if he goes? What's going to happen to the rest of us? Are we going to survive? That's what everybody's wondering, what's going to happen. Of course, Daddy Olusegun met the president and the deputy yesterday as well. So there's a lot of bidding going on for Raila to take this AU commission chair position. So let's see what happens. And he seems to be willing to do it. Fisherfolk protest as catfish cuts catch in Lake Naivasha. Why not? I want to look at that story and see what exactly it means.
That would be a nice one.
Yeah, we'll look at that story. Did you look at the Nairobian?
No, please.
Do you want to?
Look at it.
Okay. On the front page of the Nairobian, as well as many, many interesting things, Monica murder unanswered questions and guilty verdict. It seems that case hinges on circumstantial evidence, according to what Joey says. And we're looking at the mishap that left Kiftum's dead and his wife traumatized. A legend dies. And the question is, what's happening to young athletes who've hit fame and fortune? And then we see, unfortunately, tragedy. This is more than one. It's been a number of them. I mean, we saw the murder of female athletes, whereby their spouses were suspected because of the riches they'd come into We've seen too many a life snuffed out after they've hit success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do like that then.
Okay.
The traffic then. You haven't told us the other top right corners of the Nairobian.
Sasa, top right corner of the Nairobian. Nikwambia. Why you should avoid booze and sex on bullfighting eve.
Okay.
As the bull or the person watching the... Okay. Never mind.
As a spectator, as the owner of the bull, as the bull itself, as the referee, everybody.
Confusion.
Everybody. Avoid booze and sex on the eve.
Avoid bulls.
Booze. On the eve of the bulls.
This is the Situation Room. The only
All right,
way.
Right about a few minutes after 6:30, and let's see if anything has built up on the roads. Well, not really. It looks like it might be just an easy Friday. Not much coming off of the Thika Superhighway right now, so this is good. Even as you get towards the underpass, it's building, but then out through towards Murang'a Road or Wangari Maathai, I think we'll be all right. As you're coming off Uhuru Highway, nothing much happening here. Jogoo Road starting to be busy right around the Makadara train station, and it looks good on Outer Ring. Kangunda Road, traffic galore, trying to touch in on Outer Ring, and we're going to see some movement coming in from Garden City. I'm just looking at that Thika Superhighway, and it's already starting to do the business, so want to watch out for that. So starting off Friday, easy streets for now. Let's keep an eye on things and see how they open. We'll talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94 point.
This one first about Judge Akumi. So remember, of course, there was the Akumi report. Was it the commission? Commission, yes.
Yep.
Akumi Commission.
97.
Yes. The man who proposed a cure for the senseless tribal violence that plagued Kenya at the advent of multipartyism in 1991 has exited the scene. His name is Akilano Molade Akumi, and his distinguished career saw him serve for 14 years on the Kenyan bench. And in terms of the things that he suggested and proposed that would essentially bring some kind of peace, or at very least the semblance of the same. Tribal clashes and political brutality have over the years claimed many lives. However, the man who proposed a cure for the senseless violence might have gone to the grave without seeing at least one politician jailed for backing such activities. High Court Judge Akilano Molade Akumi died this week after serving the judiciary for 14 years. He served in the High Court between 1987 and 1993. He then served as a Court of Appeal judge for 8 years before retirement. Justice Akumi tirelessly and patriotically served this country as a distinguished jurist who was known for deliverance of numerous judgments and rulings that enriched our legal frameworks. Akumi also chaired the renowned Akumi Commission of Inquiry into Tribal Clashes. This was from the speech that Chief Justice Martha Koome gave while eulogizing him. He chaired the Akumi Commission, which was appointed by former President Daniel Arap Moi on July 1st, 1998, to probe the cause of the clashes witnessed since 1991. Others in the commission were Justices Samuel Bosire and Sarah Ondeo. The three were tasked to look into the Rift Valley, Western Coast, and Northeastern provinces clashes. Their conclusions was that the only way of ending the clashes was to deal with politicians, rogue police officers, including those in the special branch and provisional administration officials. To date, unfortunately, that has never happened.
Amesema sindi okutesa. And I was sitting in a corner of her, looking like a goddess. Told her, can I get your name and your number and where you come from? But before you do all that, let me tell you something about me. I love some reggae music and she said me too. I like to bounce some sass and she said me too. Born and raised in Nairobi and she said me too. Okay, sipendi watu sticky and she said me too. Sipendi watu said me too. Sipendi watu tricky and she said me too. Can I get some more?
Doesn't follow her there. She's under the care of Mercy Masharia, a security company director who's come to support her friend. The Nation writer pulls Wafula aside. A lot of questions for the telecommunications engineer who works with Nokia. How does he feel that this year's Valentine's found his wife in a lab? Is he worried? Okay. No one in the world holds the record for the longest science class. So it means that Tata is like an athlete competing in a new race. The Guinness World Record told her to hold the marathon lesson for at least 24 hours to qualify for a record. She chose to do 50. She's allowed a 5-minute break every hour. She has chosen to accumulate the hours so as to have a longer break. The rules require that at any given time, there should be at least 10 students in the class actively taking part.
Wow.
I think our students are around 24, so they've been going for health breaks and coming back. But at a given time, we've not had less than 15 in the class. The requirement is 10 students. They have at least maintained 15. We attend the class, and it emerges that Tata is a skilled teacher who knows when to throw a light-hearted word to keep her students glued. So, there it is. She was doing something that has not been done before. So she'll enter, as long as she does more than 24 hours.
And she's at 30. She's still teaching right now.
She's done more than 30.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
I think so. Fantastic.
She
That's
will be
great.
in debt.
Will she share the prize with her students? Because clearly they've helped her do the thing.
Those 15 students?
Hey, buana.
If they're not hired students, we don't.
No, they must be her students. So
hired.
if they're not, okay, I understand.
I mean, what's in it for me to sit there at 11 p.m.?
The only way you...
Listening to Avogadro's constant moral concepts, you what?
Telling me that alkaline, no more acidity.
Turns blue pepper, litmus paper yellow.
The presence of sulfur manifests.
Forget it. Yeah, forget it.
So should I tell you what Raila said? Now let's just do it and get out of the way, right? So that
Raila is going to Addis.
He's the master of Kenyan politics, according to this article. He's going for the top continental job. And in a twist of irony, he will require the backing of his fiercest critic, President Ruto, to actualize it. So yesterday, Granduncle was around. Granddaddy Olusegun Obasanjo said, I have no doubt that my friend, who is standing next to me, is the right person to take over the mantle. If the EAC region backs him, I believe the rest of the continent will support him. Masharia Munene, who's a professor of history and international relations, my lecturer actually, the government is interested in sending him, Raila, out there, in the assumption he will stop being a rallying point for troublemakers. Ruto will definitely work hard to make sure that the African Union accepts him. Look, I think it's okay. Now, so that story goes on 4 to 5. He says Raila needs Ruto's support, full support for the AU crowning moment. Speaking in Nairobi yesterday, Raila, in the company, yes, we know of Obasanjo, declared that he's ready to bear the responsibility for the position if called to do so. I'm ready to go for the chairmanship of the African Union. I have been consulting widely among friends. He, Obasanjo, is one of my closest friends on the continent, and I have intimated to him that if there should be interest, I will be keen to serve at the continent. I will be keen to serve at the continent of Africa. Obasanjo, renowned for his pivotal role in Nigerian politics and his deep commitment to Pan-Africanism, threw his weight behind Raila, emphasizing that the urgent need for Africa to have a visionary leadership at the helm of the AU. He said, there is so much at stake in Africa today that we need to get it right. He highlighted the continent's challenges amidst global uncertainties of rising authoritarianism and war. And he stressed the importance of selecting a candidate with a profound understanding of Africa's complexities and a proven track record of effective governance. Now, I don't see that anything more welcome would be on the plate of President William Ruto today. William Ruto will probably say, who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to call? Should I climb plane and go and tell them today? Because, you know, to remove the thorn from my flesh, I can back him now. In fact, when does the job start? next week? Can it start today? Kind of thing. So that's like, on that note, I agree with Macharia Munene, who says, you know what? It's probably in his best interest because you want to remove your political Achilles heel and have some free, because let him be dealing with African things and we deal with our life bila mandamano.
So, Obasanjo is in the country.
Yeah,
okay.
He probably is a lot more than
he came here, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that whole conversation of that meeting that preceded the end of Mandamano. Obasanjo, Raila, Ruto at inaitwaje hii place ya golf Ukoh Kilifi. Vipingo Ridge. Yes. They met, they talked. What did Raila ask for? What did Obasanjo propose? What did Ruto ask for? What did they all agree? Is this it?
Is it that at the end of the day you'll stop this thing and stop disturbing us and let us rule, and then we will back you for the AU position? Was that what was in the internal? Was that it all?
Was that the conversation? Was that what then Obasanjo said? Okay, you guys, so let's agree on this. You stop it. You make a commitment that you'll do it. Let's start having conversations. I will be talking to my friends. Maybe in the meantime, chini ya maji, all three gentlemen have been talking to fellow heads of state in Africa and saying, you know what, to heads of state in Africa and saying, you know, we have a candidate.
I don't think
Muta Faki Muhammad, what's his name?
Yeah, Muhammad Faki.
Musa, that one.
Yeah.
The time is coming to an end. So as all these things are happening, let's have dialogue, or we reject the report, we accept the report, but Shingo Upande, we do all these things. As all these things are happening, chini ya maji.
It's not crazy, Eric.
Yeah.
It's really not crazy to imagine that is what has been happening.
Raila didn't just wake up this week on Monday and decide, by the way, guy,
there's an AU position opening up. How about maybe I try it?
I didn't.
No.
Musalia was not given those marching orders as he's going to AU to go west. People start talking because Raila called Ruto last minute. Like,
in fact, while you're there, see if they can give him the job.
Yeah.
Stop it. No. Look, I think that there was a long game. There always is with things like this. And these guys are master crafters when it comes to this. So, of course, we need to... And look, you could say that it's in the realms of speculation, but the truth of the matter is that you need to make it seem as though it was all part of a plan and this is where we reached eventually. What do I want? What do I want at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And in order to stop giving you a hard time, how about you make it happen for me?
Yep. Hi. I have two stories.
Here we go.
Let me start with this one. There's a former international rugby player facing rape charge who's accusing judicial officers of neglect of duty for delaying the hearing of his appeal 3 years after he filed notice of the case. Frank Lawrence Wanyama, who was found guilty of gang rape together with Alex Olaba, only for the judgment to be declared a mistrial and an order issued for the hearing to start afresh, says he's unable to lodge his appeal because of dereliction of duty by judicial officers. 3 years ago, after lodging a notice at the Court of Appeal, Wanyama says he could not get the record, and at one point, the Ombudsman admitted that the High Court file had been interfered with.
Okay.
Based on the foregoing, it's imperative that this matter is heard as a matter of urgency in order to remedy the past abuses of the legal process and to put a stop to further abuses related to the fundamental rights and freedoms of Mr. Wanyama. Justice Lawrence Mugambi directed Chief Justice Martha Koome of the Court of Appeal President Daniel Musinga and presiding judge of the Criminal Division of the High Court, Milimani, among others, to file their replies to the petition within 14 days. The petition will be mentioned on the 3rd of March for directions. The two former Kenya Rugby Sevens players were charged with gang rape of a woman in February 2018. They were found guilty and sentenced to 15 years each in 2019. However, the conviction and the sentence were quashed by the then High Court Judge Grace Ngenya Macharia, who declared it a mistrial because the complainant was not sworn when she gave her evidence.
Yeah.
Because of that, mistrial, start afresh. Now.
So then what happened thereafter? Because we remember that. And in terms of now, she was not sworn in. It was not, also that document then was not signed.
It was not signed. She was not sworn. So
Yeah.
the judge said, "This whole conviction story, forget about it. Start afresh."
Which they
now
did.
the man has appealed.
Mm.
Okay. 3 years down the road, the appeal has not started. Documents in court have been tampered with. As in, this case is just
Where
one
is he?
murky case.
Is he out?
He's out.
Yeah.
There's no sentence.
Yeah.
He's not guilty.
He's not guilty because there's no trial that has begun.
Yeah.
Good grief.
He had been found guilty, but the guilty verdict
that
was
was
set aside.
vacated, obviously.
Bias,
Good grief.
The other story, this one is an interesting and bizarre story at the same time. There's a gentleman who held Kenyan and American passports. He was a senior boss at Pepsi, a director at Pepsi. Okay. His name was William Mutilangi Mulwa. William Mutilangi Mulwa. He's Kenyan. Grew up here in Kenya. Went to start working in America. Big shot at Pepsi. One time he dies. Family not aware. Okay? And Mulwa would come to the country, back to the country very many times. Mulwa had many properties in this country. 3 houses at Green Park Estate. 3.
Okay.
House in Shags. Properties, land, nini, in this country. Mulwa dies. The family, the brother, is called by someone. Told, hey, my friend, your brother has died. Abu called this number of this guy to tell you the story. The number of this guy, the guy in question is called, let me tell you the name, Peter Gedeji. Peter Gedeji is the one who's called by this guy. Oh yeah, your brother died and he was cremated. Huh? Yeah. He died, he was cremated. We are moving on to that story.
By who?
Peter Gedeji.
In America?
Yes. He died and within a short time cremated. Huko. Tunasonga. Family starts, what do you mean? Oh, was there a postmortem done? No, postmortem was not done. You see, mysterious death. Meanwhile, this Mr. Peter Gedeji is holding some property, Okoh, in America. There was a document, though, that gave Mr. Peter Gedeji the power of attorney to actually authorize the cremation to take place and to start managing of affairs of Mr. Mutilangi Mulwa in America. This power of attorney was given by a gentleman called Bakari Kisalu Malanda. Bakari Kisalu Malanda holds a Tanzanian passport. Bakari Kisalu Malanda says he is the son of William Mutilangi Mulwa. Everybody in Kenya knows William not married, William no children.
It's not possible.
This old man with a grey beard comes and says, I'm the
his
son.
And I'm Tanzanian.
And because I'm the son, I signed the power of attorney
for him to be cremated and all of this other business.
Yes. All right. Now the case is here in court. Now, Mr. Bakari Kisalu Mulwa, a Tanzanian man, says he is an adopted son of former Pepsi director William Mutilangi Mulwa, whose multi-million shilling estate he is laying claim to. A magistrate's court in Nairobi released him on cash bail in a case where he's been charged with meddling with a deceased person's property. Senior Principal Magistrate Gilbert Chikwe granted him a cash bail of 100,000 shillings and an alternative 200,000 bond and one surety of a similar amount. His lawyer, Brian Haemba, alleged that the 35-year-old Tanzanian national was adopted by Mulwa 5 years ago and that he has documents confirming the claim.
Hold up. He adopted a 30-year-old man as his son?
Yes.
According to the son?
Yes.
Okay.
And all this time, Mr. Mutilangi Mulwa comes to Kenya, meets with his brothers, meets with his sisters.
And his brothers and sisters do not know that he has a son who is 30 years old.
They say they don't know. They say they don't know. Okay? On several occasions since 2022, that's about 2 years ago, Mr. Bakari has been occupying one of the 3 houses in Green Park that belongs to
his father.
His father. Okay. Are we together so far? Now, of course, this matter is being led by the DPP.
I'm sorry. Okay. So,
On Thursday, an argument broke out in court between prosecutors and the Mutilangi family and the legal team over whether to oppose the bail terms for Mr. Bakari. The prosecution team said it could not oppose Bakari's release after receiving an affidavit from the investigating officer, who is said to be sick and away from home. The investigating officer is not in court. Prosecutor says magistrates want to release the guy. We have no objection. Family is like, hey, wait a minute. No. Mutilangi's legal team, led by Musiemi Maingi, intended to oppose granting of bail or bond. But Khaemba, the Bakari's lawyer, said the Mutilangis can only oppose Bakari's release through the prosecution team. Prosecutor has not opposed. Nyinyi ni nani? You're only interested parties.
Sasa Bakari mtoto sasa ndio ameshikwa.
Bakari ndio ameshikwa. Anakuwa accused of meddling with a dead man's property.
Yeah. And
you see,
then
now
why
as
did
the son,
cremate the brother, the siblings are alive. They didn't tell them that the father is being cremated.
So
after
he died, after he died, the son, of course, was informed. The son signed power of attorney and gave Mr. Peter Gedenji, who's in America, the power. You please go to the house, please take the body, please take it to funeral home, please arrange for cremation, please put it in an urn, okay?
I have an ask.
Now, Okoh in Mr. Gedenji, in a past interview told with the Nation, admitted to holding several documents that he collected from Mulwa's house alongside a BMW sports utility vehicle, claiming that he'll submit the documents in a New York court where Mulia's siblings have filed succession proceedings.
Let me ask you something, please. A really quick question. Bakari sasa,
mtoto 35 years old.
Mtoto 35, anaishi hapa.
Alikuwa anaishi hapa Green Park hapa.
In this Kenya with the siblings of his father.
Sasa siblings wako Ukambani.
Green Park ni Ukambani.
He would check in, check out, you know. You're laughing about this matter, but can you imagine?
Because it's bizarre. It doesn't make sense
about
to me.
It makes you start to wonder, how did Mr. Mutilangi Mulwa die?
Yes. And why was he cremated so quickly?
Die?
Yeah.
Did somebody kill him?
Something is wrong.
Just to steal his property. His property is estimated to be in the upwards of 500 million shillings.
You have the question marks, too many of them.
500 million shillings worth of property. In America, in Kenya. Very, 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 very crazy story, this one.
Madness.
Crazy story. 7 a.m., time for the news.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The next phase of exhumation of bodies in the vast Shakahola forest will resume next month. Government pathologist Johnson Odour says so far autopsies of 429 bodies had been done and results of the DNA are still being awaited. Odour said identified bodies exhumed from the Shakahola forest from the last phase of the exercise will be released to their families next month.
We did what is called management of human remains according to the standards. Yeah, what we are doing actually after doing autopsy, ensuring that all the evidence are collected, we were doing embalming. Embalming is placing a body in formalin so that now the tissues are fixed. Once they're fixed like that, they cannot deteriorate any further. And we put in the body bag and zip them. And all the bodies are like that, so they cannot even deteriorate any further. So even the fridges are not even required now. Even though we are using them, they're not required. We repair them, they're fine, but they're not required. These are bodies which can even stay out for very, very many years without decomposing any further because of embalming.
The Law Society of Kenya has presented a petition to the office of the Nakuru Governor Susan Kehika demanding the immediate reopening of the War Memorial Hospital. Rift Valley LSK Chair Henry Opondo led the advocates in terming the closure of the hospital as uncalled for, adding that it was unlawful for the county government to ignore 6 court orders.
The Law Society of Kenya takes great exception to this kind of impunity, and this being overseen by the government of our own governor. It pains us to say that when Susan Kehika was elected into office, we knew that she will champion the rule of law, constitutionalism, and she will be a fighter for constitutional freedoms. This was because we associated with Susan as a colleague.
And Azimio leader Raila Odinga says he is ready to go for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission position. Raila says he is the best candidate for the job as he understands the problems that are facing the African continent.
And because of all these considerations that I am inclined to accept the challenge. Should the leadership of Africa want my services, I am ready and offer myself to be of service to this continent. And I've asked my friend to continue to be a good ambassador and talk to other people elsewhere.
Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo also backed up Odinga's candidacy for the urging EAC countries to support him.
I believe it should be the turn of Eastern Africa. Can we find such a person? I believe, yes, we can. It should be the candidate of the region. I believe that should be the way we should go.
I am ready and offer myself to be of service to this continent. And I've asked my friend to continue to be a good ambassador.
Raila is seeking to replace Musa Faki of Chad, whose term is coming to an end. Now, Abraham Mwangi, the owner of the tanker that exploded in Embakasi's Mradi area, will be detained for 14 more days to allow police complete investigations. Senior Principal Magistrate Martha Nanzushi said he'll be held at Capitol Hill Police Station for the said duration. His case will be mentioned on February 28th. And Makadara Law Court has freed 2 Nigerian nationals who'd been arrested in connection to the murder of JKUAT student Rita Waini. Since last month, the court had allowed police to detain the 2 to allow them complete investigations into the case. Magistrate Agnes Mwangi, while releasing the suspects, directed that they appear before the investigators once a week. Waini was found dead on January 14th in a short-stay apartment in Roysambu area, Nairobi, where her body had been dismembered by her suspected killer. And lawmakers rejected the proposal by the government for persons seeking houses under President William Ruto's affordable housing plan to deposit 10% of the value. After weeks of public participation on the Affordable Housing Bill 2023, the joint committees on finance and that of housing have recommended the clause providing for the deposit be deleted.
People in Mathare will now have decent housing where they don't have to go through the indignity of having to use flying toilets on a speaker. We will give them dignified settlements where they can live as human beings.
Tell me now, who in Kenya is going to afford the 10% of the value of the affordable housing unit? Who? What we are simply doing is to create opportunities for the people who are already property, like you and me, people who are already wealthy, to be able to use proxies to deposit the 10% of the value of those units and acquire as many units as possible.
And in the slum areas, Mr. Speaker, people live in deplorable conditions, which every Kenyan who think this particular bill of housing is not necessary.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseda. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and good morning to you. Where are you this morning? Have you run into any traffic? I don't think you have too many issues this morning, except if you're coming off a Thika Superhighway and you're heading into the CBD this morning. It's heavy coming in at the Pangani Tunnel, and even before that, just a little bit of it as you get towards the GSU headquarters. But I think we'll be fine then getting out towards the CBD. There's some traffic on Kiambu Road today and a little bit of it here and there on Limuru Road, and we will know that that is going to pack up as you come in from United Nations Avenue. Kangundo Road has been busy all week and it continues this morning. Also Jogo Road, some traffic here and there. Getting onto Outer Ring as you come in from Embakasi at the junction. Some movement there. We're keeping an eye on things as we're getting into traffic hour. Soon, let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag #TheSituationRoom.
This This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Alrighty,
this is The Situation
Room. How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of The Situation Room. Happy Friday, Kenya's biggest conversation, which also celebrates Africa's biggest bank, the Pan-African Bank.
Yes, so imagine a bank that has 35 markets. And that's interesting because, again, we're not talking about branches. A bank that is available in 35 African markets and also then available in other markets outside the continent. So the UK, France, China, and the UAE. So looking at the 35 markets on the continent, and EcoBank approach is a better way, a better Africa. So what's that, a better way? That you are in Johannesburg and you come to Nairobi, and that you can continue trading and that you continue paying your bills in Johannesburg even though you're sitting in Nairobi. That you're in Abidjan and that you can continue paying your bills in Yaoundé as though you were still in Abidjan. So that's what it means. Not a group of banks, but a banking group, and making transactions easier, making opportunities seamless, and making sure that your banking experience wherever you are in the continent is better. A better way, a better Africa.
Kabisa. In this next hour, we are going to have a conversation about Africa's housing deficit and what the solutions are for this. We'll be joined shortly by MySpace Properties CEO, Wenda Thuranira. He is in the building. He's not in the studio.
He'll be here soon.
As that happens, I'll give him the proverb when he comes.
Okay.
Questions linger over Tiati MP aspirant and MCA's murder. A few minutes to midnight on February 17th, 2017, 6 friends sat inside the T-Junction Hotel, Bar and Restaurant in Marigat Town, Baringo County, making merry as they came up with a campaign strategy for a Tiati MP aspirant, and they were making plans to attend a burial within the area. Jubilee aspirant Simon Kitamba, who is popularly known as Pepe, had been at the establishment with lawyer Marok MCA Frederick Kibet Cheretei, Richard Adomayon, Peter Kanapsian, David Ngonge, and Joseph Samich for just over 1 hour. Earlier that night, there had been rumors of an impending attack. Area Chief Zafania Lakachuma stopped by the bar as word on the attack continued to spread. As we were still discussing, actually the person who kept us around believing nothing was that serious was the chief from Marigat, who came and greeted us and embraced Pepe because they knew each other. Pepe asked him one question: "Am I secure here?" The chief answered, "Yes, you can see me around." And he sat down. Even when we were being attacked, the chief was here. We trusted his word because he knew the security situation. That is, Samich, who was one of the people who were in that room, who's saying this. Pepe and Cheretei lost their lives a few minutes after midnight when 2 men, one armed with a gun and another with a machete, walked in. The attackers ordered the chief to lie down before firing a bullet into Pepe's stomach. Moments later, he fired several shots that hit Pepe, killing him on the spot. Lekachuma says after his brief conversation with Pepe, he went inside the bar and was joined by 2 police officers, and they began enjoying their night out. Meanwhile, Pepe and his team moved from one cottage to another in a bid to shake off persons that they suspected were eavesdropping on their conversations. So basically, this is a story that's looking at what happened in this. What happened? How did this attack happen? There was rumor that this was going to happen. The nation has established that the young man who claimed to have shifted his support to Pepe's camp was actually on a reconnaissance mission. He wanted to find out how Pepe was dressed, the sitting arrangement in the cottage, Other details that he relayed to the assassins. Musa Katurkana, Pepe's driver, was in the washroom when the attackers emerged. He was among the 4 people who were later arrested and they were taken to court as suspects. The following day, a Saturday, while at Marigat police station, 2 people approached Samich and introduced themselves as police officers. They said they wanted to interrogate him on the happenings of the previous night. They also disclosed that they were present when the killings occurred.
Where does the case stand today in terms of justice? No ruling still going on. 2017, 7 years ago?
Yeah. The questions are, what happened?
Yeah. In a bid to actually find out what happened.
Yeah.
Are we getting enough? I think this is kind of pointing to a lot of things that are kind of bubbling at this point. What really happens? Because that's essentially what you're trying to do when you're trying to find out what happened, or rather when a case is in court, that you're trying to actually find out what happened, who was where, who was what, that could point to any kind of evidence that you would then use through the trial. Are we able to answer those questions regularly and actually find information about what happened? Because that essentially is what fuels your information basket. I think more often than not, we don't know what happened. So one would ask then, that are you truly able to deliver justice if the information that you're looking for is not through and through? What happened?
Pepe had vied for the Tiati seat, initially Baringo East, in 2007 and 2013. He had lost both times to Asman Kamama. He was now preparing for a third attempt in 2017. In that 2017, William Kapket was the candidate for Kanu. So what could have gone wrong? This is what the story is asking. The story is basically just asking those questions. What happened in this particular case? How did this person die? What have investigations unearthed so far? Anything that has come to pass? Nothing. And the questions continue. And if you look at this, I mean, it is Baringo. I mean, bandits attack.
So you would assume that it was such a thing. And that's the thing. Your first thought is that that's exactly what it was. Because I was going to say, is it in any way linked to what is going on with the mandatory issues in this area? And one would assume that that's what it is. But we're looking at probably something else here. Yeah.
And even if, that just tells you the state of security there. As in, people are sitting at a bar drinking, nasikia leo kunaweza kuwa na attack, and they continue drinking. Where am I safe, Chief?
And it's normal here.
Chief tells you, you are safe. Let's just continue. Somebody walks in with a gun. Somebody else walks in with a machete. They slash people. They shoot people many times. And by the way, the town does not shut down.
No, it's normal. And that's very
it continues. The following morning, unajua mimi nilikuwa hapo hiyo area ile shooting ya jana. This is the state of affairs in very many of these counties. In Baringo, in West Pokot, in parts of Elgeyo Marakwet, in Turkana, in parts of Laikipia. This is normal.
And it's been accepted, unfortunately, that is what is going to happen.
It is very, very sad. Our guest has checked into the studio now. Mwenda Thuranira is the CEO of MySpace Properties. He's in the real estate space. We are going to talk about Africa's housing. Mwenda, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Very well. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
We call that the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Now, Siti is not here today. Siti has been very busy this week, so he took some time off.
Okay.
But he left me with the day's proverb.
Okay.
Every week he goes into one African country. He then brings us a proverb a day from that country. This week, the proverbs are from Angola. Your job is to listen to the proverb and then give us your interpretation of that proverb.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Angolan proverb of the day. In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten. In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
Okay. The majority carries the day, and the minority have their say.
Allah. And what do you think?
I think.
You think?
I've been thinking a lot
you
this week.
You have seen. You think, and therefore you see.
And therefore I am. Yeah, I can see it.
In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten. So majority
have their way.
Have their way, and the minority have their say.
Yes.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Wonder, you've been in the real estate sector for a number of years.
Yes.
Just tell us, in summary, that journey and what MySpace Properties is all about.
Okay. In summary, my name is Mwenda Duranera, the CEO of MySpace Properties, and I'm director at My Town Malls. And we're involved in real estate development, real estate management, real estate sales. And basically, we're in the real estate space. And especially right now, we are focusing on affordable housing and commercial real estate. MySpace Properties has been there for over almost 16 years now. We started way in Mombasa. We're there for 10 years. And now we've been in Nairobi for 5 years. And we are looking to grow into this space within Kenya and within Africa. Yes.
This real estate sector, how is it faring in the country? People have talked about very many things over very many years recently. First of all, there's going to be a housing boom. This is going to bust. And then there's a commercial real estate boom. It's going to bust. I mean, look at all these properties coming up. And then there's an issue of where is all this money coming from and flooding the market in Kenya's real estate? Land shooting up in prices, and then buildings starting and finishing within a very short time. What does that tell us?
Of course, real estate busting in a developing country like Kenya is almost an impossible affair. You've seen what happens. There can be a bubble burst in real estate when there's an overexposure to credit. But when we look at the situation in Kenya, almost everything is, I can say, is cash. I mean, how many mortgages do we have in Kenya? Less than 500,000. Maybe if it goes more, it's like 1 million. Out of the almost 50 million Kenyans, I mean, that's a very small exposure. So that can only happen when the exposure to credit is high, like the way it was in America, in UK, and other places. What you find is the opposite. The credit exposure is way higher than cash, than the people with cash. So many people buy properties, people buy land, people build their own houses in Kenya. And I mean, the borrowing is not very high. The exposure to credit is not high. And of course, being a developing country, according to research, in the next, by 2050, almost 50% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. So we'll continue to witness more growth in the urban areas, areas like Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu. And now even the counties are coming up with development where people need decent housing. I mean, people are educated now. Not like before, somebody used to carry a djembe. Every day you wake up, you live in the village or you are alive. Right now you see people like the youth now, they are more into border, power source, and they're educated, they want to come to the city, they want jobs, computers, people are making money in that sector, so people will need decent housing. So it's to say the demand for housing will continue growing in this country, but we have not even scratched the surface yet. We are way off.
So, I mean, this is a thing, because there are very many things that are said. We know what United Nations SDGs have been. We know what the MDGs were. We know what many organizations call the necessity to have dignified housing or decent housing. And I think it's important for us to hear this again. What is decent? When we say decent housing, a roof over your head, access to plumbing, doesn't that cut it? What's decent housing?
Decent housing is basically when you have like power, you have water. I mean, as you said, you have a roof over your head. I mean, housing is a basic necessity. Everybody needs it by the end of the day. People have to live somewhere. That's why we are really advocating for mortgage industry to be streamlined so that people can have money to purchase houses. We also advocating for TPS, tenant purchase schemes, where you can pay pole and eventually you end up owning the house. Yes.
Okay. So decent housing means that you should be able to, you have access, like you said, access to power, plumbing, a roof over your head that you can live and go. So that's decent housing. So then what is affordable housing?
So affordable housing is that. Yes, it's decent housing. And affordable housing is where, for example, in Kenya, is anything 3 million and below. That's affordable housing.
it's not pegged to how much it's not pegged to what your purchasing power is as an individual?
Not really. It's not pegged on how much is. I mean, coming from where I come from, we're in the real estate development and real estate sales. And of course, it's what sellable in the market.
Okay.
I've seen, of course, when you say affordable housing and housing for the less fortunate is way two different things. Since by the end of the day, for example, somebody doesn't have a job, even if your house, the mortgage was 10,000 per month, they could not afford. That's why, like I have seen it in the other countries, when it comes to the less fortunate, the government has to house them. The way the government builds infrastructure like stadiums and roads and stuff, it should be able to build for the poor. Since no matter how much you put, even if you put 2,000, it still be affordable to some people. So they should be provided housing as a social responsibility part of the government to house its people.
And that's where the social housing comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a social housing aspect.
Yes.
Even in the housing program by the government, there's a social housing, and then there's the affordable housing, and then there's a market rate housing. Three categories of houses that are brought to the market.
Yes.
Right now, the conversation in Parliament is on the affordable housing bill.
Yes.
And of course, this started last year with a proposal to have a tax, a levy, whatever you want to call it. They kept changing the terminology here for housing. And in response to that, we saw very many people, some experts in the real estate sector, others, economists and all, saying, we do not have a housing problem in this country. What do you say?
Of course, there's a housing problem. It's there, and it's a big one. And as I said...
How so? Because the argument was, unajua watu wangapi wamelala nje leo wewe. That was the argument. People are waking up from a house today.
You know, one thing is, out of 10 Kenyans, only one owns her house. 9 are renters.
Okay.
So that shows you the way the gap is.
Okay.
And eventually now, for example, this person might lose a job or might get old and now they can't afford to pay the rent anymore. What happens to this person? He needs to live somewhere by the end of the day. So housing sector, we really need to push really hard to have more houses. And when it comes to government housing, the social fund, of course, if it's corrected and managed well, then it will work, since it works in other countries. I mean, if you go even to grown economies like America, you go to maybe Australia and somewhere else, they have a housing fund. But this is used to put in a kitty for mortgages.
Okay.
Since the issue is affordability. Of course, if there's available finance where people can borrow and buy houses, since it's highly capital intensive and actually is one of the biggest investment almost everybody makes in life. So if there's a source of finance for them to buy houses, I mean, the private sector will build as many as possible. And then there will be that factor of supply and demand in the market. If you build good houses, if you have a good track record, of course you'll get more buyers.
Attract the customers.
Exactly.
But is the private sector building houses that are below 3 million? You said 3 million shillings is what we consider affordable houses.
Yes, correct.
Is the private sector building houses that are less than 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million?
No, less than 3 million, yes. They are there.
2 million?
2 million, they're there. I've seen.
Sufficient number to address that need that you said we have a need?
Of course, not sufficient. Not sufficient at all. We need more. We need more of that.
So there's a need for more housing because what is available in the country is not enough.
Yes.
But there's also a need then to provide this housing in a manner that some folks can actually purchase. Because what we're saying is that folks should own their own homes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That the renters, the 9 out of 10 are renters. And that what we are striving for is that more individuals own their own homes, or more families, whatever, own their own homes.
Yes.
So what's the block? What's the block between having more housing available in the country and then having more people being able to afford to purchase? What stops this thing from happening? Because that number has been thrown at us forever. I think just 3 short years ago, there are only 25,000 mortgages in Kenya. There are only 50,000 mortgages in Kenya. There must be something that's stopping people from getting from this point to owning.
Okay, number one is access to finance. Access, affordable mortgages. That what will push people to own houses. Since like what happens in Kenya, let's say because we don't have much streamlined mortgages, if somebody wants maybe to get a mortgage or financing to own a home, they go to one bank. They are denied after waiting for so long, doing valuations, going to see the houses. Then they go to another bank. They are denied. That person, in life, the moment you mention mortgage, he doesn't want even to see you.
Yeah.
And in fact, they will hate that word mortgage.
What's the reason they're denied the mortgage?
The reason, of course, is the affordability and the rules put for mortgages. You know, like before, the beauty of it now, we have the KMRC mortgage, which is really working well since they're charging 9% interest rate and they can do up to 25 years. That will really help Kenyans. And it's our hope it can come even lower since when you have a house, it's a tangible asset. And somebody by the end of the day, no matter the situation, they have to live somewhere. So before the way it was, like if you were to borrow, let's say now the interest rate are 19% or 20%. For somebody who wants to buy a house, for somebody who wants to buy a car. You see, a car is more temporary.
Yeah.
A house, you live there for life. So, and in case of any default, you have an asset which you can hold. So for mortgages, the rules for it should be more, the banks should be more flexible and the government should encourage more and even drop the rate to less than 9% interest rate.
Do you think that the government approach then, because I mean it's all over the place, isn't it, Wenda? Right now, that a little bit of your salary goes towards government then being able to put up houses, right? Do you think that's the way government should go? Or kind of like what you alluded to before, how about a kitty whereby folks then will be able to borrow from the government and purchase their own homes that, according to what you're saying, the private sector is more than able to put up around the country.
But now, how will you borrow from the government without a kitty for that?
That's what I'm saying. Do you think that should be the thing? That there should be a kitty?
The Affordable Housing Fund
should be a kitty that people can borrow from.
Yeah, exactly.
Should go to KMRC.
Exactly. To KMRC. Okay. Exactly. So that the access to finances, you know, in a development, there are two major costs. The cost of land, the cost of finance. Those are the ones which determines the cost of the house eventually. So if that cost is brought down, if that kitty, that's why I said if it's managed well, it can work for this country. And the deficit of housing can go lower and lower.
Let's take a break at 7:30. Our guest this morning is Mwenda Thuranira. He's the CEO of MySpace Properties. He's in the real estate sector. As the conversations about the Affordable Housing Bill goes back into Parliament now after the committee report, then now the full House will start debating it. We still ask ourselves, what is the solution to the housing issue in the country? Mwenda says, guys, please, there's a housing problem. Okay, so let's begin from there. Now, how do we address it? Do we go this government route? Do we go another route where the private sector is solely playing it in the field without the government in the field? What should the solution look like? That's what we're discussing. We'll be back shortly. EcoBank, the Pan-African bank, says a better way,
a better Africa. So imagine a situation whereby it doesn't matter where you are around the continent, with the 35 markets that EcoBank is present in, you will be spoilt for choice. You can go anywhere because you will be able to carry on your business. If you left Nairobi and went somewhere else where there's an EcoBank, you wouldn't have to shut down anything. You would continue with your personal finances. You would continue with your business. So long as you have an account that was open, you would then be able to still operate in your shillings. And if you were somewhere else, Congo Brazzaville, you will still then be able to operate with your CFA. So a platform that works seamlessly and across the continent in concert is what EcoBank offers. A better way, a better Africa.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It wants start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in
been low nin inte iyo nin dheer ayuu markhaati ka dhigtaa. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And he must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning. It's 16 degrees, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 29, and a partly sunny Nakuru coming down to lows of 14. It's 12 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 27 as well, in a mostly sunny Eldoret at 13. Looking into a sunny Mombasa at 27, we'll see highs of 33, and Malindi is sunny at 28, going to highs of 33. It's sunny at 21 in Kisumu with highs of 30, while at 18, Kakamega is sunny, going to highs of 32. Into Kampala, the sun is up at 19, and Dar es Salaam at 27 is sunny. 19 and partly sunny in Johannesburg, and looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 28, it's cloudy at 14 in Addis Ababa. Partly cloudy conditions in Lagos at 27, going to highs of 34, while Kinshasa is mostly clear at 24, and we'll see highs of 33.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so getting into traffic hour this Friday morning, and many spots where there'll be a hold-up today. If we're looking at the Thika Superhighway, I think we're fine now coming in from Garden City, and then moving in from Survey through towards the CBD. At the tunnel is where you'll see a hold-up. Now, the Northern Bypass has some traffic as you're getting in through towards Runda, and then touching on Kiambu Road a little bit. I think it's just a junction issue. Apart from that, I think we'll be all right. Let's take a look at then coming off of Wayaki Way, coming in from James Gishuru. Not too much of an issue here at all. We'll likely see a pickup as we get closer into traffic hour. Naivasha Road is giving through towards Gong Road, but nothing, again, too crazy. Gong Road is busy getting into the CBD. We're going to keep an eye on things as we go through it. Uhuru Highway at your different junctions, Lusaka, then Bunyala, and then through to Haile Selassie is busy. It's going to touch on what's coming in from Hamkunji roundabout. Let us know just in case you get stuck somewhere or you find a good route. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X. Hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Housing issue in this country. So in the 2019 census, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics told us that there were about 49 million Kenyans. Looking at that in the 2009 census shows you that Kenyans are increasing by a population of 1 million a year. 1 million a year. So 2020, we were 30 million. 2050, how many years is it from 2020? 30.
From 2024 to 2050?
2020 to 2050.
30, yes.
30. If we were 30 million in 2020, what's the population likely going to be in 2050?
Probably going to double.
Okay. So about 60 million or so are going to be in this country. And Wanda, you've told us, statistics have shown that projected by 2050, half of Kenya's population will be living in urban areas.
Correct.
Right? So we are saying over 40 million people in this country will be living in urban areas. Now, those ones are not in their shambas. They'll be living in some houses in urban settlements. Cities like Nairobi, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Mombasa, other cities will have emerged then, and so on and so forth. So where are these people going to live? And this is where now the housing issue comes in. We can see presently in Nairobi, more than 50% of the population in Nairobi is living in what would be considered not
informal,
proper housing, informal housing, right? Half of Nairobi is informal. Now you can imagine if we just go another 25 years from today, how's it going to look like? If we don't start addressing the issue now, problem. You say the route to go is to think broadly and see how does private sector play, how do we make it affordable for people to live in these houses. Now, question number one, must people own homes? Must these 40 million people who will be living in urban areas from towns to cities in this country, must they live in their own homes?
No, of course they must not. But if you see at that gap, if out of 10 Kenyans, 9 are renters, at least it needs to be half-half. Since when you own a home, it's a way of wealth creation. It's a way of building a nation. I mean, it's a way of creating employment. And I mean, it has so many advantages. And in Kenya, it's different from the other parts of the world. Kenyans are more into owning land, owning properties. It's our culture. Yeah. We can't run away from it. And I believe it's not a bad culture, but eventually, I mean, if we have that investment culture in ourselves, as a country, we'll go far. Yeah.
Then, for people to own homes, must they use borrowing? If the trend in this country is cash buying and borrowing, or mortgage, long-term financing for owning a home is not the way to go, why must we push people into that direction?
Of course, not everybody has cash. I agree with you fully. But we need to come invent ways of being affordable by many people. I think if we have good financial instruments, like for example, number one, we said about mortgages, then there's this thing called tenant purchase schemes, whereby if somebody, let's say you have funding, you go somewhere and obtain funding for 50 billion, you come do developments and you do tenant purchase agreement where it's by, let's say somebody is able to pay 15,000 per month for a house, for a mortgage, for a period of, let's say, 50 years. Or if they can pay early, the better. Then if you load, let's say, interest of 20%, 15, it will come less than 16,000. The difference is small. So once that thing is packaged, for an investor with an income for 20% return per year, that will make a lot of sense. I think even when it comes to other forms of investments, like if you put your money in the bank, if you buy treasury bonds, it doesn't get, if you invest in stocks, you don't get that 20%. So it makes it lucrative for investor. So people would be more willing to put their money in this market. Yes.
What for you would make sense? As you look at it now, with the current situation, what we've already established, what would make sense? What government is proposing today, government of Kenya is proposing today and says, you know what, let's hive off part of your earnings and let's put this into this fund that will then ensure that houses then are bought by Kenyans and then would essentially solve this problem that you speak of. Is that a better way to do this? Or are we saying no? Where are the other options in the private sector whereby you pay to own? What I'm paying in rent to you today, Mwenda, goes on a reducing, and I keep going, and the unit eventually becomes my own. Do you see what's happening now with government, or what government wants to do moving forward as a solution to this issue? Because on the many times that the president, for example, has spoken, he said that very same thing that you've said. That there's just not enough, that we want dignified, decent, affordable housing for Kenyans. You're saying the same thing. Do you agree on the method?
No, of course, for sure, I know Kenyans right now are overtaxed and the economy is not at its best. I mean, there are no jobs. There are job cuts all over, and also people doing business, they are being taxed heavily. Of course, it's not the right time, but in fact, I can see it's the only way. In fact, we have two ways. One way is being able to have affordable finance for development and affordable land for development. And that one, the government has to come in so that the houses can be affordable. Another way is the one I told you about, if we have investments maybe from outside or from within, where people have like these tenant purchase schemes. I mean, for investors or for business people, they are profit driven. And of course, if there's profit to be made, they'll be there. Everybody will jump in that space. But both of them going hand in hand, I think then we'll solve this equation of housing. Since the problem lies in the finance, nowhere else.
So I see that the hand in hand happening. If I look at what the government has started doing, so the hand in hand is happening. So the government is coming in with the interventions, provide land, give tax rebates, remove VAT, remove make cement and other inputs cheaper, and then partner with a private sector player.
Yes.
So say MySpace Properties comes and bids to be the one that does this project in this particular area. Government has taken care of land. Government is making sure that you get cement at lower tax. You're getting steel at lower tax and all those other things, right? And then government is guaranteeing you offtake. That's the current scheme.
Exactly.
And the offtake is coming from the housing fund.
Yes.
So it says, once you finish, I will give you your money. You go. I will be left with the tenant who will be paying the 20,000 a month for the next 25, 30 years to own this home.
Yes.
And you as a private sector, then you have the money to go and invest elsewhere.
Yes.
And also maybe participate in the next scheme.
Yes.
Is that the 50-50 that we're talking about? Or is there a problem in that model?
No, of course, the structure is not yet done. But these things take time. These things take time.
What do you mean the structure is not done? That's what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, but Bado, we are not there yet. We have not structured it properly.
What's missing?
For example, these funds which is being corrected, in fact, it should go more into affordable mortgages, even more than development, more into structuring the mortgage industry, since that's where the problem lies. I mean, if people are, as I said, if people are able to borrow or borrow for mortgages, borrow money, instead of paying the rent, they pay mortgage so that eventually they own. That will solve the equation. The private sector will do development more than any government can do. So I'm more into that one where we have borrowing power and then get investors involved through like tenant purchase schemes, which will work very well, especially for the low income, where we said you can pay a mortgage of 15,000, you can pay a mortgage of 20,000. Then even a border operator, a driver, somebody will be able to afford a house.
Let me see if I get you right.
Yes.
So when the Thronero's proposal, this housing fund, if it's collected, it goes into, say, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company.
Yes.
Right now, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company gets money from the government. Well, not much. Gets money from World Bank. Gets money from Shelter Afrique and others that give money into these financial institutions that are partners.
Yes, correct.
Of the KMRC. So the financial institutions take this money, let's say at 5%. And then they put their own markup for administration and all, and that's why the loan comes to 8% for the borrower. So you say, if we increase the money to KMRC, then the financial institutions, the SACCOs and banks, can actually get this money at 1%.
Exactly.
Which means that they can lend to us at 3%. And it will be able to buy houses.
Exactly.
And then Mwenda can also go and borrow from this KMRC for development at whatever higher interest. But the money will be available. Once you put the houses up, Eric, can go to KMRC and take a 3% mortgage. And that will be a faster way of addressing this challenge.
Of course. And that's why it works elsewhere.
Okay.
That's how it works elsewhere.
Yes.
Another thing that you've said is that the private sector is then able to harness development better than government. How is that?
How is that? Of course, with the government, with the bureaucracy and all that, it takes forever. Even that's why up to now, we don't have, of all this affordable housing, there's no one project we can pinpoint and say this was done by government. Not yet.
Yeah, they tell us all the
What do you
time
mean?
about Ngara, and it's complete.
Bondeni is
Bondeni
complete.
is complete.
It's
Already
on sale.
people living there.
It's on sale. It's up for sale now. People
Yeah, for sale, yes. But look at it. How many years now?
No, Bondeni just completed.
On the private sector. On the private sector, how many developments have come up?
You tell us, by the way, MySpace Properties, how many developments have you done in the last, say, 10 years?
I mean, we have been involved in so many projects. Way too many.
So
And
hundreds of units?
Hundreds of units.
All occupied?
Some are occupied.
All many.
Some are ongoing, and others on planning stage. Like, for example, right now, this one we're doing here in Sun Park in Syokimau, just down the road from here. I mean, it's a project on 26 acres, like 1,500 units. And I mean, it's a good location to be at, especially if you work in a place like here. And we are selling at a 1 bedroom at 6.5, 2 bedroom at 8 million, and 3 bedroom for 10 million. And the uptake so far is good. The first phase is 360 units. We have already sold like 200 units. In fact, this weekend we have an open house. Tomorrow and Sunday. People can come and see what's available. And I mean, the uptake is good. It shows you Kenyans have appetite for housing.
But is that now, even as you say that, is that directly fulfilling the need that you talk about? Because that's essentially where we started this, is that there's a problem, there's a deficit in houses that are available. But we're also saying that the private sector, I mean, just from the example that you've given, is filling up this quota really quickly. You know, it could be because it's for commercial or for private business. You know, obviously, if it's for private business and you know that this is where you want to go in terms of meeting a bottom line, then of course it makes sense. But is private sector actually contributing to filling this deficit of housing that there is in the country, or is it a byproduct of the commercial desire to be in business? It's going to happen anyway. Because we're in business, we'll build houses.
And people need houses.
And people need houses.
Anyway.
So private business is filling this deficit. The filling of the deficit is a byproduct of being in business.
Of course.
It's not to say that private and government are working together to bridge this housing divide or deficit.
No, now for like a project like this, you know, the KMLC mortgage, they finance you to unit up to 8 million. Anything above 8 million, you have to top up. So we fall within that bracket. For example, if the 2 bedroom is 8 million, you're able to get the KMRC mortgage through our partner banks like Stanbic and KCB, and among other institutions. Hopefully, Heco Bank is part of it. I would like to have a conversation with them, and also they can be part of us to be able to finance the end users.
But you see, like Ndu is asking, are you addressing that need? At 8 million shillings for a 2 bedroom, that is not in the affordable bracket, right? That is 5 million shillings above what you said would be the affordable bracket.
Yes.
So when the people are purchasing these units at 8 million shillings, of course the rents are higher.
Yes.
So the people that right now are living in informal houses are not going to move into these houses. So we are still not addressing the need for people who are coming out of college, have no jobs, they have just started a job, and they will not be able to afford this kind of rent. How do we address this issue right now, where the people currently are paying rent of 1,000, 2,000 shillings a month, but they are living in mabati and cotton and mud houses in the city, without toilets, without water, without roads, with illegal connections for electricity and all these other things? How do we address that issue? The people who are paying 2,000 shillings today for rent, how do we give them houses?
Okay, number one, you know, when you're in business, you choose a sector which you want to play in. And you have your clientele, your buyers, you know them very well before you do a project. And I believe there are other people playing in other sectors. And that's why I'm addressing this thing of tenant purchase schemes, especially people paying 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. That will be the only solution. If you have a scheme maybe for 50 years, for 30 years, that's the only way it would be possible. But if you are doing it as a business, now you have to choose your sector and do your calculations, see where your profitability and what problem you're solving. Yeah.
You talked about access to credit and land being the most expensive factors then in owning a unit or even renting at this point, because all of that is lumped onto how much you're going to pay, right? Could you imagine a situation whereby government and private sector entered into this marriage whereby they say, oh, obviously, you guys have the tools of trade, you have the expertise, you're putting up developments all over the place. You talked about MySpace doing that, putting up developments all over the place. Could you imagine a partnership for the nation whereby the folks who are in the business and then the government, which has the muscle now in terms of land, the one most expensive factor in all of this, whereby government is able to say, let's go ahead and build this and then, activate the purchasing power. So we're doing all these things at the same time without taking more money away from Kenyans, right? Activate this fund. This asset of land which government has, the largest owner of land in the country is government, right? And then use your private sector, because you're giving them something, the developers, such as yourselves, to put up housing that is actually affordable. But these three are working in tandem. The fund, government in terms of offering up the asset, and then private sector to come in and activate with the tools of trade to put this up. That to me seems like the best of these three worlds, whereby yes, then somebody is actually able to pay something as low as, whatever per month, but it eventually is your own. Would something like that not seem most workable?
That's the ideal scenario, and that's the way it should be, in fact. And that's the direction we should be driving towards. I mean, since, as you said, the government owns the land, the government has the money, and especially now that they are taxing, they have a housing fund, they have KMRC and other options, then that's the ideal scenario. I like that. Yeah.
Because that's then where social housing goes. That's what social housing is, essentially. That you can then own, it's on government land, but because it's government land, it is subsidized, greatly. I think the only way to fill this hole or to bridge this gap is to take away the most expensive element, because the gap is caused by people not having. That's it. It's nothing special. It's not. There's no rocket science to it. It's just because people can't afford the thing, and that's why there is a gap.
Yes.
To close it would mean removing the most expensive element.
Exactly.
And bringing Constant Cap, who's a planner, is commenting on social media and talking about the social housing aspect, where we say that social housing, of course, is, like you said, for the people who are in the low income brackets, who will not be able to afford purchasing of homes, then they should be able to rent those homes. Okay? So looking at the kind of urban population that we have, the percentage of people who are living in informal settlements and all, and then looking on the other side of the affordable bracket, should government play on both sides, or should it choose one? Should it play on social and affordable and market housing like it's doing presently? Or do you think the government should only focus on social housing, where you're building houses for rent, people will move in here, they'll rent, they don't have to buy. The homes are owned by the government through the municipals, the councils and all. And then you, private sector, play in the affordable bit.
Exactly.
Explain.
Yes. Of course, the social housing is a responsibility for the government. And the way I've seen it work in other economies is whereby somebody who develops high-end houses, when you you develop high-end housing, then you develop affordable, low-cost housing. You get big tax breaks for doing that on your other big project. So that one, they can all grow together. Let's say I'm doing a development in Runda or Mudaiga, where I'm selling a unit for 200 million. Then I get a tax break if I'm going to develop something in let's say I'm going somewhere in
Athi River.
in Athi River, Kitengera, in Kawangware. If I'm going to do affordable housing somewhere, I get a big tax break even more on my other projects. That's when I've seen it encourage developers to focus on both markets, where they don't, since of course, when you're doing high-end units, there's more profit.
Yeah.
But on this, like for example, I'll give you a scenario. You do 10 houses. You make the same profit where you do 100 houses. Would you rather deal with 10 people or 100 people?
10.
Of course, 10.
10 people.
Yeah.
So that's the ideal scenario.
Where do we see us going in the future? Where do we, and the future could be tomorrow. A lot of things are still up in the air in terms of what's going to happen with this levy, with this fund, with et cetera, et cetera. But one thing that we do see very clearly is that private sector is going. The commercial aspect of real estate in the country, owning homes for individuals, they're still moving.
Yes.
Everybody's going like this. Will it meet at some point, do you think?
Eventually, the market forces will come to play. And of course, the private sector will have to play its part, and the government will have to play its part, and we all meet together somewhere. But for me, I'm really big on advocating streamlining. I don't know how many times I have to say that. Streamlining the mortgage industry or the tenant purchase schemes. That will sort this issue.
Did you make your presentations to the Joint Housing Committee at the National Assembly on this housing bill?
No, unfortunately, I didn't get to be part of that. But in some other forums, I've brought it up in other forums, and that's why I'm here to bring it up again. So hopefully somebody will hear me out, and something gets implemented. Yeah.
Well, it's a big issue, like you're saying. Housing is a big issue. The conversation right now moves again into Parliament. The formalization of this housing project, it started from one end. First collect the money. Okay, so how are you managing the money? We need a bill. Let's take the bill to Parliament. Now the bill will be there. Now we have a bill that manages the money that we are collecting and then formalizing it. In the end, these conversations seem not to be meeting or converging. The private sector is saying one thing, the government is saying another thing. The experts in real estate, in housing, in planning are saying a different thing. Like Ndu was asking, do you see us actually having a solution soon? Do you?
Eventually, we have to come up with a solution. In fact, we don't have an option. We have to come up with a solution to address this issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it will not be at a higher cost than we are paying currently.
Yes, correct.
Mwenda Thuranira, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Mwenda is the CEO of MySpace Properties. He's a player in the real estate sector. We've been talking about housing, the housing problem, how to address it. He says, let's think of how we can make affordable access to credit, to mortgage. That way, then the private sector can build the houses. 8 a.m. Good morning. Time for the news.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has owned up to starving the much-needed funds to the counties. The president blamed the delay in disbursement of funds to the devolved units on Eurobond debt payment pressure and the allocation of more resources to the Minister of Education for junior secondary schools rollout. Ruto spoke as he launched projects in Murang'a and Nyeri counties on the second day of his Mount Kenya tour, where he also assured residents that all development projects initiated by his predecessor in the region will be completed.
Ndio tunafanya hapa Murang'a. Tunategemea pesa zako zinatoka Nairobi na kwa miezi 2 hazijaingia.
So unajua last week nilikuwa nalipa ile deni kubwa waliwachiwa na watu wa handshake. Sasa nimelipa hiyo last week, si namna hiyo. Na nilikwambia kwanza nilipe watoto waende shule alafu nikupange. Kidogo wananiambia pesa yao ya account imechelewa. lakini nimewaambia wacha nicheleweshe yenu kidogo. Kwanza nihakikisha watoto wote wa Kenya wako shuleni. Hii Januari nimeweka bilioni 61 katika masomo ya watoto. Wale wa primary tumepatiana capitation, wale wa JSS tumepatiana capitation, secondary hivyo, TVET namna hiyo, university namna hiyo.
Deputy President Gataga pointed at the strengthening of the shilling as an indicator of good things to come.
Hii dola muuze leo na kesho kutwa. Msipouza mtaenda hasara kubwa. Hii dola mimi naona rais anapanga itafika 100. Kwa hivyo tunaambia Wakenya wale wako na dollars, mkimbie haraka msiende hasara.
The president's message to Central Kenya was that of hope that the economy is making a recovery and that the region will reap development projects for where they sold when they put him in office.
Mimi nataka niwaeleze wabunge, you have the choice to make, because this is not about parties. This is not about this side versus the other side. This is not about those who have versus those who don't. This is about the employment, the job opportunities for millions of young people in Kenya. Barabara zote za Maumau ambazo zilikuwa zimekwama kwa sababu ya kukosekana kwa pesa, nimeshapanga. Ile kisirani kubwa tulikuwa naye ni ile madeni makubwa watu wa BBI na Rege walituwekea.
And the president's political advisor Karisan Zai is asking leaders from the coastal region to stop giving inciting utterances in their meetings. Speaking in Mombasa, he advised leaders to work together in order to deliver to their electorate.
Ni ombi langu la kwamba nyinyi viongozi wa pwani na viongozi wengine nyote mkishikana, fundishaneni jinsi ya kuboresha maisha ya watu, sio kutukanana tu kila kukicho kiamka unamtukana. Kuna njia nzuri ya kuambiana sisi kama viongozi, sio ya kwenda kutukanana kwenye media. Haiwezi kutusaidia. Let's change our tactics of living. Na politics zetu zitakuwa za heshima.
It says it's planning a meeting that will bring all the region's leaders together so as to find a solution to the problems bedeviling the region.
Nitahakikisha katika hii serikali ya William Ruto, nitahakikisha kwamba hawa wamama wanapata pesa na wanajifanyisha biashara zao, kwa sababu kila kukicha tunalaumiwa ni kwa sababu hawana information. So nitaorganize mkutano wa viongozi wote katika region hii ambao wamepata kazi.
Residents of Busia County have complained about the scrap metal business in the area that is contributing to the destruction of public infrastructure and theft of their property. Led by Charles Oyaro, they claim that some of the people running the business come from the neighboring Uganda. The residents have also called on the security officers to deal with those operating the business illegally.
Nashangaa sana, nimetoka kwa nyumba nimeenda kutafutia watoto chakula kwa mjengo, nikirudi napata jiko hakuna, napata mpaka sufuria hakuna, na sijui wanapitia wapi.
Na hii jambo la scrap metal hili linatusumbua sana. Unapata kama umejenga nyumba ukiweka madirisha na milango, usipokuwa na mlinzi hapo, ukija kesho yake zimetolewa na zimeenda, na nyingi zinaenda Uganda.
Taona chuma mbalimbali, naomba serikali yetu issue ya scrap metal. Scrap metal inaingilia masufuria ya wamama nyumba. Serikali iangalie, itusaidie.
Russia and Ukraine exchanged air attacks, with Moscow targeting cities across Ukraine and Kiev striking the Russian border city of Belgorod, one day after Kiev said it sunk another Russian warship off the coast of Crimea. At least 7 people were reported injured after attacks on Kiev, Lviv and the eastern city of Zaporizhia, and infrastructure facilities were damaged in a string of attacks launched by Russia. Hours later, Russian authorities said 5 people were killed and 18 injured in a missile strike on the Russian city of Belgorod. The regional governor Vyacheslav Glagkov also said that the 7 homes were damaged. This is Newswire. Dennis Asada, good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Landis Road is where the action is as you're going towards the Kamkunji roundabout this morning. As you get on to Haile Selassie, you should be fine. That Kamkunji roundabout is where you'll see some traffic today, as well as on Jogo Road heading out towards the city. Onto Huru Highway, here and there, quite some traffic. I think we're going to have to deal with that. Hold up. As you get into the city from Gong Road, it's busy. Coming in from Raila Odinga Way, we'll see some movement as well. State House Road is busy, as is Limuru Road. Let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, where it's heavy, coming in all the way from Survey through to the city, as well as on Kiambu Road this morning. So manageable, not too crazy, but there's traffic all the same. We'll keep an eye on things and see how they progress as we get through traffic hour. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag TheSituationRoom.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 7 minutes after 8. Good morning. Welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room on this 16th day of February 2024. Happy Friday. Hey, EcoBank is in how many countries? Africa?
35 African countries.
Outside Africa?
4.
Ah, yeah, South Africa.
And France.
And France. And the UK. And China.
And the UAE.
Okay.
And South Africa.
And South Africa. Headquarters?
In Lomé, in Togo.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if you were in Lomé. Or imagine if you were in Johannesburg, or you were in N'Djamena, or Yaoundé, or Yamoussoukro, or in Abuja, or in Accra. It doesn't matter. If you are with EcoBank, you're on the platform, and you can travel within any of these countries where EcoBank is resident in any of these markets, and there is a smooth transition of your transactions. You can be in Nairobi and pay your bills in Freetown. You can be in Johannesburg and pay your bills in Abidjan. It really doesn't matter, so long as you're on the EcoBank platform. It's a better way to do business, wouldn't you say? It's a better way.
Same platform.
Yes.
One platform. If you're going onto mobile banking, one platform in all those places.
Yes.
Abuja,
Abidjan,
Yamoussoukro, all those. And it's a real story.
True story.
It is not Abuju.
It's not Abuju Jabba.
Okay.
No, it's the real thing. It's a better way. It's a better Africa.
All right. Our next conversation is going to be serious and light at the same time, because we will be talking to somebody who deals with alcohol, but also at the same time we're talking about alcohol that is illicit and leads to death and harm to humans. Ben Githua is the chairman of the Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya, ABAC, Abuja. How are you, Eric? Did I say Ben?
Yes, you did. You said Ben.
How did I say Ben?
You said it like that, but we can say Eric. Say Eric.
Eric.
Well done.
Yeah, I just wanted us to have one Eric in the studio. That's how.
Feeling territorial, are you?
Yeah. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Nice to be here.
Say hi to Ndu.
Yes.
How are you?
Eric says hi.
Hi, Eric.
Good.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We'll talk about the association, what you guys do, what you work on, and recently we've seen some statements from you regarding the proliferation of illicit brews in the country. Not a new conversation, but why do we keep having this conversation every so often? Why do we keep having so many families burying their loved ones, and also people just losing their loved ones to alcoholism? That conversation comes shortly after we give you the day's proverb. City is not here, he would have given you the proverb himself. Ametuma salamu, akasema utuachie nini yake. But the proverbs this week are from Angola. It's a thing.
It's another
Yeah. The Angolan proverb for today is, in the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
Okay.
In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
Okay. I think it's just that same concept with, the minority having their say, but do they really have their way? Because in the rules of democracy, the majority at the end of the day wins. So the minor's view could be the most important view, but at times it's not respected, it's not taken into consideration just because they didn't count as much.
It's forgotten.
Yes, it's forgotten.
Regardless of whether it's important or not.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh. Introduce us to the Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya.
Thank you. So, Eric Githua, as you said, I'm the chairperson of Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya. It's an association of alcohol manufacturers. So it's a unit which comprises of various companies which we've subscribed willingly to participate in. Just by way of membership, we have 7 members. So our members are Qual, Kenya Wine Agencies Limited, Kenya Breweries Limited, UDV Kenya, 2 Cousins Limited, London Distillers, Pernod Ricard, and Heineken. So we collaborate jointly on issues of such as illicit, anti-illicit issues. We collaborate on advocacy issues when engaging the government. We engage as one team. And at the end of the day, we are also very keen at responsible sale and marketing of alcohol. So we have even a code of conduct which all of us as members have subscribed to ensure that we are able to responsibly sell and market the alcohol products.
What is responsibly selling alcohol?
Responsible selling entails various aspects. For example, we believe alcohol should only be accessible to adult consumers. So we will always ensure that even from the
Your
way...
belief doesn't matter. That's the law.
Actually, a lot of it is actually a lot of the law, including what we have as Alcoholics Drinks Control Act. It actually took a lot of views, the current one, what we call the Mutudo law. It took a lot of views from us, the industry players. Right even before the ADBAC was already there, and there was already a marketing code that we had already signed to voluntarily. So the law actually learned from the industry.
Very good.
And it's actually, so for us, we are very keen at ensuring that alcohol is only accessed by the adult consumers. We are also very keen on responsible consumption from, for example, you cannot promote over drinking or binge drinking. We believe that a rightful consumer should be able to drink responsibly. We also respect the choices of those who do not choose to drink. I think drinking is a matter of choice, and we also respect them, and we are part of the community that ensures that it is respected.
Okay, so that's what we talk about it then being responsible at some point, right? There's been a lot. I mean, look, there's been a lot. We're looking at recent incidences. We're talking about historical incidences whereby folks get into a spot of trouble with their health when it comes to then brews or liquors or whatever that they've ingested. Where does the association play there? Because sometimes we'll be looking at traditional brews, which steps outside of your purview. Sometimes we'll be looking at, stuff that's manufactured, I don't know where, behind the tent. So where does the association play when it comes to those things in terms of regulation? And can we really have a handle on some of these other things that are happening?
Yeah, and thanks, Ndu. I think that's a very important question. It's indeed very, very sad and unfortunate. Just looking at what has happened in Kangai village, I think in Kirinyaga County, seeing 17 people die because of consumption of illicit brew it's heartbreaking. Those are fathers, those are mothers, those are people's children. And unfortunately, more have gone, I think some of them are even still in hospital, and some have gone blind to it. So what have we been doing as an association? First, we've been deeply concerned with the level of illicit. The first research that was done about the level of illicit was done by WHO in 2018. It was published in 2018. It indicated to us that 44% of alcohol sold in Kenya is illicit. In the WHO term, they call it unrecorded alcohol. So it means that the formal trade is actually 56%. The other day, last year, we partnered with various government agencies to also find out our new numbers, because we've seen COVID came, the level of depressed income has been there. There's always also been other factors which has led to legitimate alcohol being expensive. So when we did the research, it now indicates that 59% of what is consumed in Kenya is illicit.
59%.
59%. And it's only 41% that is the legitimate alcohol.
Okay, can I know you want to, I need to just step in there to ask a question before you, so you remember that thought. But maybe we can just define what is illicit, because we tend to think that, okay, illicit is something that's put in a jerry can somewhere and then you've poured jet fuel into it, or it didn't go through the right filtration process. What is illicit alcohol?
Okay, thanks for that. We have various types of illicit. The first one is counterfeit, where right from the word go, you've interfered with somebody's intellectual property by having a brand name. Maybe you've taken their packaging and you've just distorted, you've created your own labels. And some of it, most of it, you find sometimes could be even substandard. Then there is also contraband, whereby it's especially for the imported products, where the sole reason that this good is brought into the country is for purposes of duty evasion. So that brings that element of illicit. Then there is also these other ones which are unregulated by how they are manufactured. So you'll find, for example, what we call the traditional home brews, which is manufactured by somebody at the backyard, and it's not regulated. The process is not, you won't see government officials as part of the process on the quality checks. That also forms illicit.
Okay. All right. So now going back to the 59-41%.
Yes.
So you have 59%
Yes.
of alcohol that's being consumed in the country today is illicit.
Sure.
What are the checks and controls then for this to make sure that it's either removed from the market or at the very least that there's awareness that this is happening?
And I think first, for us, we've really tried first to collaborate with the government. There are efforts that also the government has tried to put in place from an enforcement perspective. The situation could have been worse. It's only that enforcement should come, our view is that enforcement should come at the tail end. There are other policy considerations that we need to keep in place. Also, why is it much of concern to us? If you look at it, when you are having a place where almost 3 out of 5 drinks that you have is illicit, it's a sad situation. Because that's like almost 60%. Now, apart from the social or the health issues, I think which are the most important issues affecting people who are having this consumption of illicit, there are also other things, like the government is losing a lot of revenue. From the research that we did last year, if you look at it, the level of taxes lost to the illicit world is actually about 66 billion shillings.
Per year.
Now, what will 66 billion do? 66 billion, for example, you've just seen there was an infrastructure bond for 70 billion. Probably that money was just paid. You didn't need an 18% interest rate on it. I was looking at the Kenya police budget. I think it's about 104 billion. Our Kenya police would have been heavily empowered with it. If you look at the State Department for Road budget, it's about 80 billion. And these are, they're in the act in this financial year. So we would have better roads. So the government is actually losing a lot of revenue on this aspect. Now, what is our view? First, we need to understand why are people consuming illicit. I think first it's affordability. Most of these people cannot afford legitimate alcohol. The unfortunate incident, for example, in Kirinyaga, you find, if you go to that on the ground and we've seen the reports from the ground, there was an option. There are people who consumed from the jerry cans, which was the illicit brew. There are others who are in the same bar and they consume the legitimate product. Those who consume from the jerry can are the ones who are, unfortunately, have been impacted. And why so? Because of affordability. If you look at legitimate alcohol, is very expensive in Kenya. Compared to Uganda, compared to Tanzania, people who live in the border towns, they actually go to drink on the other side because alcohol is expensive. And why is it expensive? First, the taxes that are being charged on legitimate alcohol are quite high. I can just give you in terms of percentage. For an average 250 ml value product, the value product is what the person who drinks illicit, when things go bad, they now down trade. So you'll find on an average about 49% of the direct cost, or if compared to an RRP, 49% actually is taxes, and I'm talking about excise tax and VAT on it. Then the cost of production or the cost of the good, the actual cost is about 22%. Now the 29% is what now we call the margin of the manufacturer, the margin of the, at the end of the day, there's a distributor, there's a stockist, there's a retailer, and now there are also indirect costs. There are a lot of county levies that our distributors pay. A lot of it bar owners pay. There are also national government levies. There is also corporate taxes for us manufacturers. So that's why excise has always...
So the 49% does not include levies?
It doesn't.
It's just
excise
VAT and excise duty?
Yes.
And then now you start now bringing in the trade licenses and the other levies at local level?
Sure.
So if you combine those... What is the cost, the percentage that goes to government?
I think that will vary different counties to counties, because that one will be based on the margins and it will vary from even products to product.
Okay.
But for sure, it tilts it's more than the 50% now. You'll find that from 49, you'll see the push will be higher.
Okay.
Because different counties will charge different taxes for it and levies.
Are we seeing, I mean, we talked about this incident where 17 people were affected.
Yes.
But do we see that for all the incidents where this may have happened, that there's a direct link between this incident of, health impairments, death, unfortunately, has been linked to illicit brew?
Yes.
It is.
And it has happened. Maybe let's go back a bit. If you can remember sometime back, even in 2006, 2005, 2003, there was a drink called Kumi Kumi. And Kumi Kumi was also the same thing. You find people go to illicit dens and all that. But the government of the day then came up with a solution, working with one of our members, to ensure that there is a low-cost value and beer that can be able to be sold to such people. And for us, it's very key, because so long as excise is up, at the end of the day, the cost of the price will be higher. And if you look at from, for example, a consumer's point of view, the share of the wallet for alcohol for a responsible consumer is, after I've paid all these other liabilities, then now this is entertainment. So so long as the cost of these other things are higher, the entertainment budget will definitely be reduced. Now, we are seeing also a very trend whereby consumers, let's say we're in the middle class, are actually choosing something that is of lower value in terms of financially. So they downtrade to, for example, the value products. Now, with that downtrading, even the government is losing revenue, because while excise tax is charged per litre, despite how high-end or low-end it is, but VAT is based on the cost of the good.
Right.
So they are downtrading. Now, unfortunately, those who are in the value product or value segment, they are actually left with no option rather than illicit. And we've seen it in the past. For example, there was a time between 2021 November to 2022 October. The government increased excise tax by 3 times differently. For example, I think for spirits it was increased by 99 shillings. For beer, spirits was 90 shillings. For wine was 45 shillings, and beer was 26 shillings. What did we see?
In one financial year?
Yes. Okay, in the government financial year it could be 2, but in 13 months. So what did we see? We saw a dip
in the consumption of those products.
Yes, and that's why you can find between 2018 and 2023, you find the illicit has grown by 15%, which is something of great concern to us.
Let's go back to the 2015, when Kumi Kumi, Konambe were affecting people.
Yes.
And the government of the day said, all right, so how do we work with local formal alcoholic beverage manufacturers to come up with a product that serves this market? So the product that was then released to the market, what made it cheaper?
Okay. So what made it cheaper first was on excise tax incentives. As you can see, excise is the biggest cost.
Okay.
So there is a remission structure to it. Now, the other thing that also made it cheaper, it's even everything from the county levies, then not county because it was prior to 2010, but the levies were not that high. But now we are seeing a situation whereby every county is very keen on source revenue. So what does it do? Every county has a bill similar to the national government, and it's taken to certain levels where every county is trying to really raise a lot of money.
Okay.
So for our trading partners, it becomes a bit more expensive.
So back to that one.
Yes.
So excise was not front-loaded on the product.
Yes.
And then what happened to the local levies?
So for the local levies, now we've seen an increase of local levies.
Then at that point, I'm trying to understand why did it become cheaper?
Yes.
And why did people go to it? Because it was cheaper. So
Yes,
why
it was
was it cheaper? Was the production cost lower?
Yes.
Was the distribution cost lower? Was the government hand in terms of taxes lower?
So for the local levies, the cost of operating a bar was way lower compared to now.
Okay.
Because you find now, then I think we were in the era of municipalities, so definitely the cost of operating the bars were quite lower. So there was also an incentive program whereby if you are maybe a person who sells the Kumi Kumi or illicit brew, you are actually incentivized, because so long as the licensing fee is lower, there is actually, nobody wants to be troubled every day with having the chiefs, the police raiding their premises. So long as that cost rate is lower, it's actually an incentive. And there are things which we are seeing actually happening. Like, for example, on the issues of counties, we've seen there even, for example, there is a bill, which is a model bill for central Kenya counties. We think for us, it will make some of the situation worse. Because, for example, so long as you're increasing the cost of legitimate trade, it will directly impact the cost of the goods. Then, because it's now not affordable, people choose illicit. And why is it making things worse? For example, they've introduced some clause. It's still a bill being debated in most counties. And some of the clauses, for example, they're saying that for alcohol distribution, you cannot distribute alcohol using border borders. It outlaws it. It actually keeps a fine of 100,000 of if you distribute it using border. And it's a sad situation because imagine the number of jobs that will be lost in it. Imagine we want to go to a level where as a country we are saying e-commerce is the way to go. And even here in Nairobi, the e-commerce that we have is you buy online, you pay online, a border guy comes and delivers to you your one bottle, and you enjoy it in the confines of your home or with your friends.
What is the thinking of the drafters? Because there must be a reason for this.
Yes. The thinking of the drafters, I wouldn't say much about it because I think it would have been good if we were consulted from the word go. The thinking of the drafters is they want to end illicit alcohol.
Okay.
But where we have a different in opinion is the how.
Are the drafters made up from those who would consider themselves to be legitimate alcohol manufacturers?
So the drafters never consulted us when the bill was kept out. Of course, before the bill is drafted, there's usually a process. So I think it would have been good if we were consulted before the model bill.
But who are the drafters?
It will be, for example, there was a group from most of the county assemblies. So, because the thing is this, where we have a meeting of mind is that there is an issue.
Okay.
And we need to sort out the issue.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Okay.
Where we are having a bit of divergent view is the how.
Don't you think they are coming from somewhere where they have experience on the ground and they have seen the biggest distribution network of these illicits is the border?
Sure.
Because of the unregulated nature of border borders. So they're saying if you cap that, then you're making a big move. We are talking about, it's a bill that will go into the counties in central Kenya. That's what they see on the ground. That's what they know. They know that these illicits are distributed in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, at the back of border borders. How do you address that?
Sure. So first, I wouldn't even attribute from my own experience that the distribution of illicit a lot of it is in the back of border borders because you can see even the quantities the border borders will carry. In some of those towns, you'll find maybe it's one, maybe a crate or two. And it helps in the last mile distribution. And if you see what they're proposing as the way of distribution in those bills, they're proposing that it should be carried in a vehicle. The vehicle needs to be branded. And these vehicles, which are believing, like, for example, for all of us who have legitimate distributors, they need to pay a sub-county license. Currently, the license and fee is paid on a county level. So if you have a county that has 6 or 7 sub-counties, you go to each and every county, and some of it is as high as 600,000, just the licensing. So you pay, now it will require you to pay about 3.6 million, which doesn't make sense. Even for a distributor, you've been given to distribute, let's say, is it in Nyeri or any other county? Then here you are now being subjected to pay this higher rate. So it is something where we look at it. They will also, because of it being branded, it's sad because the distribution might become now a target. Because you see, when a branded vehicle is moving around, at times, if they're in elements where there are criminal activities, it might become a target. There is also a view where in some of the bills they're saying that the distribution needs to happen between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We all know that buses need to operate from 5 p.m. So that is a challenge because a lot of these buses will tend to open at maybe at 2 p.m. for the person to clean the place, to take stock. So you actually saying the distribution of legitimate alcohol will start only maybe at 2 p.m. in practice, to by 6 p.m. the truck needs to have been back at the depot.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yes. So those are key challenges, I think, that we need to seriously think through it. There are areas definitely we support. Like, for example, in the bill, it says you should not advertise alcohol near schools. We don't have a problem with that. But now,
isn't that national law already?
It's actually borrowed from the national law.
Okay.
And it's okay to have it there. But now it's also if you're saying the trucks need to be branded, and they'll be driving near schools, there'll be no 300 meters radius, they'll be driving all over the places. So what are we saying? So at times, that's why we think for us, it's good for us to be consulting each other. It has serious ramifications and impact, because we wouldn't want to have trucks all over when school-going children, it's something where we need to consider ourselves.
Okay.
Furthermore, this sector employs a lot of people. If you look at it from the farmers, the manufacturers, from the bar owners, the number of people employed, it employs about 500,000 people. So it is a sector that I think needs to be listened to. And the players and everybody is concerned about the level of illicit. And we think there are solutions, and the solution is just the existing laws you need to enforce, but you need to ensure that the parity between what is legitimate in terms of cost and what is illegitimate, there need to be a consensus. It needs to be,
Okay, let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation shortly. 28 minutes to 9. Eric Githua is the chair of the Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya, which brings together 7 members so far. The manufacturers of legal brews in this country. We are talking about illicit brews in Kenya and why legislation could be contributing to the proliferation of illicit brews, consumption of it, and then the harm that we are seeing. 13 people died in Kagio just because they consumed this thing. Many are still hospitalized. Many may not see again. Many will have lifelong health challenges and complications. And this is just one area. Others are happening across the country on a daily basis. We must have a solution. We must have a conversation. We'll be back shortly.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in this
Ben low, nin inte, nin there, ayu markati kadikta. This character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. And he must blame it on Adam, not because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 16. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 17. It's sunny at 17 in Nakuru with highs of 30, and it's 15 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 28 and lows of 13. Eldoret is sunny at 16 with highs of 27. Mombasa is sunny at 29, and in Malindi it's 29 and sunny as well. Kisumu sunny conditions at 23, going to highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 32 in a sunny Kakamega at 20. Out into Kampala, the sun is up at 21, and in Dar es Salaam at 28, sunny conditions going to highs of 33. It's mostly cloudy now at 20 in Johannesburg with highs of 30, and looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 29. Addis Ababa is cloudy at 16. Lagos partly cloudy at 26, and Kinshasa is sunny at 24.
Spice up your life.
Coming off a Thika Superhighway this morning, heavy with traffic still at that survey area going towards the Pangani underpass. It's always going to be like that, at least at this time of the morning. Okay. Also, Kiambu Road is busy. Ring Road Westlands, of course, doing the thing now as you're trying to get out towards the city. Waiaki is not doing too badly, and I don't think anywhere else is kicking up a storm, at least not for now. There's little traffic on Limuru Road, but you'll be fine getting off United Nations Avenue and then joining into the CBD. Landis Road still busy getting towards Kunji at the roundabout, and Jogo Road a little bit here and there. Coming off Manyanja Road, all to be handled. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya. We are talking about illicit brews and what needs to happen, and we've defined those two. So, in the Kenyan market, according to a study that you conducted last year, 59% of what's being consumed in Kenya is illicit.
Sure.
And only 41% then becomes legitimate. Legitimate, government is getting taxes directly from it. Legitimate in terms of we can trace back the source and the origin and how it's arrived at a consumer's table or hand or mouth or throat.
Or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then we also defined illicit and said counterfeits are illicit.
Yes.
Counterfeits are Kariobangi and those things that we call Kariobangi drinks, right? Then there's contraband. Contraband could be a proper drink, but it has been brought in Okoh chini to evade tax, right?
Smuggled, yes.
Smuggled into the country.
Yes.
And then there's unregulated. Unregulated includes traditional brews.
Yes.
Somebody having some Muratina somewhere, they've made Muratina, they're kunywaing, they've followed all the process of making Muratina. You consider that illicit.
Yes.
Somebody taking busa somewhere, they've made their busa at home, they've followed all the right procedure, fermented the maize, whatever, you consider that illicit. And not all illicit is poisonous.
So, and to be honest, there is the reason why, and maybe let me speak more about the local brews, because local brews have a place in our society, you know, our traditional ceremonies and all that. And most of these people who make local brews is actually an art, at times passed over generations. You know, somebody was taught by the grandfather or grandmother, and it passed down over a period of time. The only reason why it's considered to be illicit is because it's also unlawful. For example, you'll be told that for you to sell alcohol, you need to package it in a particular way. You need to have a KEBS mark. You need to have a KRA tax stamp. Tax has not been paid on it. So that now, those are the aspects that make it illicit. And the sad bit is that at times, if you look at why at times is it still thriving, the local brew sector, and some of these people, they would probably even want to get into the legitimate space, because nobody wants to be in the Chang'ar river dens each and every day. But if you look at the cost of compliance that has been kept by the laws that exist, is very high. For example, there are things you'll be told today, if you want to start your own distillery or brewery, you know, you'll be told you should have a flow meter. You'll be told there are 3 flow meters or 2 that you need to have, which are monitored. You need to have these equipments. If you look at those cost of those flow meters, they're very expensive. So you find a situation whereby, for example, before you start, the compliance items that are there will cost you about 15 million. Some extent, depending on what you produce, it could be way up at 20 million. Now, in that local village, where do we expect people to have this 15 million? But that's the cost of being the legitimate player. And the sad situation also comes. Once you are a legitimate player, of course, the high excess taxes will still apply to you, which will also probably lose your customers, because your customers came there because you're affordable. So you would lose your customers to the next door vendor or the next door person who has not complied.
Sounds an awful lot like, because this den of competition is so stiff, that you'll do whatever you need to do to keep out folks who are actually, number one, making a living, number two, are actually providing an alternate source for folks who cannot afford what we are calling legitimate. Because local brews have been consumed for centuries. They are part of culture.
Exactly.
They're a livelihood for very many people. I'm not even talking about the stuff that makes people blind. I'm talking about the stuff that you have at festivities in the community.
Proper murats done
properly.
Busa,
And if you want to be honest about it, the processes that they use for this distillation is the same process that the legitimate business is using today, that has been passed down to generations, but has now been formalized.
Yes.
It's the same process. So if that is the case, that we're saying it's a sad thing that they continue to, what would be the problem in saying within the context or within the boxes where this local brew is actually manufactured, can we not standardize or set requirements within that setting whereby they would be able to meet the mark 1, 2, 3? But it sounds to me that if we did that, it would be an affront to the legitimate business, because competition would still be up there.
Actually, maybe just to take you back, there are standards that are there. For example, there are KEB standards on making changa. So for sure, by the law, and we've never had a problem. Neither do we want to have a challenge with that as legitimate players, because it's part of us. It's part of traditions at the end of the day. So the only thing I think that needs to be done, and maybe some policy direction needs to be driven on, how can you be able to uplift this person? How can you drive them into the compliant world? Because so long as we have this, cost of entry being that high, for you to get into that space, the government would require you to have these items, which are also mandated by law. So long as that cost of entry is high, it's actually a barrier.
Yeah.
So for us as legitimate players, we don't mind. We actually appreciate. There are even clauses which support such. For example, you can make it, and the chief can approve for you to make it for a traditional brew. When you go to the villages, if there are traditional ceremonies, it can be made for domestic purpose or for traditional brew for that purpose, but not for commercial use. But since some of them want to get into commercial space, now they have a barrier that is there. And it's a barrier that maybe the law needs to be relooked at.
Does ABAC support traditional brews? Yes or no here?
Yes.
Okay. Does ABAC support the formalization of traditional brews?
Yes.
Does ABAC support, has ABAC had any kind of conversation or any campaign that says, we understand that part of this 59%, part of it is actually proper traditional brew, and we'd like it to come into the formal and legitimate market, and this is what we're doing to reach out to that, helping, because we have the muscle, we understand the laws, we have the know-how in terms of dealing with policy, pushing for policy that would formalize traditional brews.
Yes. So maybe just to take back, I mentioned, like, for example, the KEB standards.
Yeah.
So you'd find, for example, as ABAC members, you sit down in the technical committees, you find representatives of, members from legitimate alcohol players will always be in a technical committee. So even in such forums, you find the standard exists because people who are in the technical committee were able to come up with something and say, this is a standard that makes sense. And if you look at what they are producing, you're right, some of the processes are more or less like what happens. Distillation is distillation at the end of the day. The only thing that we are seeing which is now endangering their lives is that some people are getting a bit more greedy, and now instead of using ethanol, they're using even methanol. Now, if you look at also, some of them are using ethanol but in excess format. And some of this ethanol is unfortunately being driven again by policy. So, for example, now, the other day I saw AFA, Agriculture and Food Authority, Sugar Directorate, has given a letter allowing for export of molasses. Now, what is happening? So long as you're able to export molasses from Kenya, and a lot of alcohol actually comes from the sugar cane that we get from Western Kenya. So we support a lot of farmers from that, and it's derived from molasses. But now we are finding a situation whereby Kenya Revenue Authority had come up with something, and maybe it's a government directive that come with a directive whereby if you are buying from, let's say, a local distiller, and you are buying what we call Ednah, which is made from molasses, you pay excise at that point, which I think is actually a good thing. But now it's only being applied to our members, because what people have done, you form some small distillery in Uganda, Tanzania, or any bordering country. You buy molasses there.
Right.
In that regime, it doesn't require you to pay excise at the point of selling Ednah. Then that Ednah is converted in that regime. Then it's actually smuggled into the country. And there's a lot of concealment that happens at the border. I know KRA is actually trying to work on it, and it has been supportive. There are some instances where they get it. But I think it's organized crime, so it's smart. So they bring it into the country. Then once it's brought into the country, now it's used to make the counterfeit. At times, it's taken to those places where you find the jerry cans, which were to be used as in a certain case somewhere.
Yeah.
So that is the level of issues that we are finding. And correctly, back to the homebrew situation. The homebrews have been there for centuries, but we need to have a rethink. What has been happening of late to make sure that we try to stop this illicit? Because illicit is now finding itself growing, because some of those people who now saying they're making homebrews, they're probably not, they didn't perfect the art, they got too greedy, they're selling every other thing. So that is something that we find as a challenge. And maybe Kenya, we pride ourselves as a powerhouse in East Africa. I think there are things we need to learn from our neighbors, such as Tanzania.
Okay.
And if you look at it, Tanzania, for the last about 6 years, they have never increased the cost of excise on alcohol. They have never.
Okay.
And you find people don't drink illicit brews, because so long as it's affordable, people opt to drink something that is legitimate. It's about choice to our people. Now, you also find that the same thing, like the other day I was looking at, Tanzania has actually gone even on simple things like an excise stamp. They have actually reduced the cost of excise stamp. Kenya, we are still high on the cost of excise stamp. Despite the same service provider is actually the one supplying Tanzania. But here, Tanzania has reduced the excise stamp costs about a week ago by 22%. So you find all these are elements where you see the government of Tanzania is really trying to cap the issue. And for us, I think the main thing that we need to have a view and we need to just consider is, so long as legitimate alcohol is affordable, people have a choice. And this choice item, you can see it even in other sectors. For example, nowadays, people go to supermarket. Sometime back, tissue, you could choose per brand. Right now, somebody would say tissue is tissue. And they look at the price, whichever is lowest or on offer, pick it. We've seen in other sectors where you find even bar soaps. Somebody sometime back would have a bar soap for washing clothes, would have a different one to shower with, and you'll have a different
for dishes.
For dishes. But now you find somebody buys one, and because it's a cost of things, so this one is the one. Then you cut, especially the big one. You cut it into pieces
for kitchen,
for that
laundry,
for
bath.
Yes, and it's cheaper. So it is the same kind of thinking that is also happening in the alcohol space.
So you're saying, long and short, that if we reduce the taxes,
yes,
the cost of alcohol will come down.
Yes.
And if the cost of alcohol comes down, then the competition will be at price point.
Yes.
And people will then opt to come for the branded products.
Exactly.
That are legitimate.
Sure.
And they will not go for the unbranded, illicit products.
Sure.
Okay.
That is the argument.
Yes.
Do you think that what we see with the roundup of businesses by police and other security agencies, whether it comes to the chief's camp, etc., do you think that is the way to go? Because what happens is that people are scared, they throw the thing on the ground when they see the truck come in. Maybe they're arrested, they're taken in, after a couple of days they're let go, but guess what? Next weekend, they're back there at the thing. So do you think that that is a way to solve the problem?
Okay, it's not a sustainable way. Because, for example, maybe I can, for the last 6 months, as ABAC, we've had various engagement within the counties with the law enforcement agencies, particularly in Eastern region and Central Kenya region. And, we go meet and agree on what are the sustainable solutions. So doing what they call the raids is not sustainable. And it has reached to a level where some people even know these people will just do it today. Then in 2 weeks, BAU, business as usual. So what does that person do? They just close down for that 2 weeks, and then when the heat reduces, and the difference, actually, the high tax rate is actually, unfortunately, an incentive to do illicit. Because if you look at it this way, for ABAC members, some of our products are retailing at about 250 shillings, so they're about. And I'm talking about the 250 ml Mwananchi spirit, which is retailing at about that amount of money. But on the other side, you look at consumers are having access to something which is being sold at 100 shillings. Now, we know, and from what I told you, if 49% of the RRP is just excise and VAT, it is impossible to make it. In fact, for us, we are quite clear, even it is impossible to make alcohol and do anything if you don't sell it if you find something that is being sold at less than 185 shillings. And some of us, have economies of scale, so it should be cheaper for us. But for sure it is impossible to make it. But we find it there in the market. So, and there's always that trend when enforcement is enhanced, they go under a bit for some period of time, then they come back again. So for us, it's how do you bridge that gap? Let's learn from our neighbors, Uganda. Let's learn from Tanzania and see how can we be able to ensure that gap is not too high so that people cannot be incentivized to get into illicit. But so long as it's high, 49% people will think through it on how to, yes.
It can't just be tax. There must be something else that drives people to consuming these other products. It's not a new conversation that we're having in 2024. It wasn't even new in 2014 or 2004. It's been a conversation that's been there for a long time. The issue of the proliferation of drinking dens, alcoholism, just talk about Mount Kenya, is a decades-long issue. But ABAC just keeps talking about the prices and the taxes. Do you have another approach to this?
Okay.
So, because surely people are going to look for alcoholic beverages. And there are very many other considerations, price being among them. But what else?
So the thing is this, people go to drink first. Let's understand they're thinking of the consumer. So the consumer will go to a bar to have a drink first because human beings, we are social beings. Then the second bit, probability is high. A lot of business is actually discussed in that place. The same way you find people go to upmarket, people will find themselves going to golf club to discuss business. These people, if you are a plumber today and you set out yourself in a new town, probably when you go there, that's when people will know you and you get some jobs out of it. So the socialization aspect would always continue. Now, why are we very key at price? Because everybody, even at this moment, people are very price sensitive. Because price is key. Everybody wants to, ensure that they are able to cut a bit of their costs in order to supplement other things. And a lot of things you said price, because I said when it comes from the share of the wallet, entertainment is usually towards the end. So you paid your school fees, you've paid all other expenses, then entertainment is towards the end. And we've seen situations whereby if legitimate alcohol is affordable, people actually jump in. I can give you an example. You'll find you go to yourself maybe to a rural area. When yourself, Latiff, you're there, when you've come from Nairobi, the same guy who drinks what is illicit would actually be aspiring for you to buy him something legitimate. All these people have aspirations. You aspire to have this brand, which is a legitimate brand, but because of your wish, you can't be there. And some of them even fell from the legitimate brands because of circumstances, economic circumstances, to what we consider illicit. So that's why price and tax is key to make us go to that level. Also from a county government perspective, I think it's very key to ensure that there are discussions to ensure that these barriers are not there. If the same people who are selling these considered illicit items are actually having an easier way to come to legitimate world, it's better.
I want to take you back. I told you in the three definitions, counterfeit, contraband, and regulated, not all of them are poisonous.
Yes.
It's not all drinks that are cheap that are poisonous. But it sounds to me that ABAC wants to frame this conversation that if it's cheap,
it's illicit.
It's illicit. If it's illicit, you're likely going to die. And that's what I'm asking. I mean, it cannot be that.
So the thinking is this.
What else? I mean, not all drinks that are costing less than 100 shillings are likely to kill you.
What happens is this. First, the government authorities are there to ascertain that the product and the processes are followed. So, for example, if you have something that today KEBS has not approved it, for our factories, KEBS comes to, ascertain the process, there are quality checks that are done. Even for us as an industry or for people in this trade, we are not so sure about it. You would find at times, for example, somebody is using the smuggled ethanol. We are not sure. And if you look at those people that are using it, how can they even differentiate a methanol and ethanol? Because you'd find most of these people who are actually brewing and selling it, some of them even have good intentions because they're people from the same village. They didn't know this will kill people. But for factories like us, we have quality processes. We have, KEBS is there to check you're using ethanol, not methanol. If you look at methanol and ethanol, they're all clear liquids. How do you differentiate? So you find that aspect of the fact that the government authorities have not been at play in that area, and that's why they're considered illicit. That is what now makes at times people might be, either through the will of the person who is selling it or without the person selling it knowing, might be disposed to having something that has health issues. So that's where we come from.
Okay. What percentage of this 59% illicit is actually contraband?
Contraband is, can check, I think 16%, yeah.
16%.
So contraband is just tax evaded. So a lot of it is counterfeit. And then the other bit is now, of course, the home brews.
So you could see a 16% actually going to the other side if they were tax compliant?
Yes.
They could become legitimate.
Most of the contraband we see in this country, it's actually imported whiskeys, it could be imported spirits.
But if those folks who are under that brand then become a part of ABAC, then they would be on the legitimate side.
You become legitimate, yes.
Are there some members, not maybe members of ABAC, are there some formal manufacturers of alcoholic beverages who also put some of their product through the contraband route?
That would be very hard to tell, because a lot of contraband we've seen from our research is actually maybe distributors, somebody who is importing it into the country. Most of the local manufacturers tend to have their own brand. So a lot of it you find it's imported product that comes into it. The other bit that you find might be a bit on tax evaded. And how do we know about it? From the pricing point of view. Where if you find something that is being sold at that little amount, for sure it means taxes have never been paid. Because if you go to a bar and find something being sold at 100, and for us we know for sure the tax in it, for example, for a 250 ml spirit, excise alone is about 89 shillings, sorry. You add excise and the cost of the tax stamp, that's 89 shillings. And we've not talked about VAT. So that pricing is actually a big indicator to us that that could be happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
These conversations need to continue happening, and we thank you very much, Eric, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Eric Githua is the chair of the Alcoholic Beverages Association of Kenya. We'll be talking about the alcoholic sector and the call by this association for wider involvement of stakeholders in drafting policy, laws and regulations at national county level. Asante sana for joining us.
Thank you.
Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we'll have our Health Friday conversation. We talk to a psychiatrist and we ask what's happening to the men of the country. Very many cases of suicide and others. What's causing it? 9 a.m. Good morning.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Minister of Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has confirmed that the first batch of the government's 7 billion shilling state-of-the-art security equipment will begin distribution next week. The deployment is slated for areas prone to terrorism and banditry, with the focus on bolstering safety measures in regions like northeastern, upper eastern and upper coastal areas. Speaking from El Nur in Wajir County, The CS Kindiki emphasized the importance of strengthening security measures in vulnerable communities.
Mimi nataka kuhamia Northeastern sasa tukabiliane na hawa watu ambao wanatuletea kisirani hapa wakijiita Al-Shabaab. Kwa hivyo hawa watu lazima tusukumane nao, wameumiza maafisa wetu hapa na pale, lakini nataka nitangaze ya kwamba tumenunua vifaa mpya vya kusaidia maafisa wetu ili wakisafiri kutoka sehemu moja hadi nyingine wasiweze kuumizwa na majangili. The government has acquired new mobility equipment for our security forces in Wajir, Mandera, Garissa and other areas which are affected by the threat of terror.
CS Kindiki highlighted the significance of equipping security officers with essential tools such as armored personnel carriers and mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles.
Na mimi nitaanza sasa program ambayo tunaanza wiki ijayo ya kupeana magari maalum ambayo tunaita kwa kimombo armored personnel carriers na zile zingine inaitwa mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles ambayo iwezi kupigwa na bomu ya Al-Shabaab. Hiyo gari ule adui akiweka ile bomu ya kutega ardhini, bomu ndio inaumia, sio gari inaumia.
MCAs in Kisii County have vowed to impeach Deputy Governor Robert Monda from office for alleged abuse of office, led by the Ichuni Ward Representative Wycliffe Siocha. He said that they will approve the bill to expel the Deputy Governor on grounds of violating leadership values.
He has abused his office. Number 3, he has committed crimes under the national law or laws. And number 4, his code of conduct or conduct as a Deputy Governor is really wanting.
A motion has been tabled to remove from office the Deputy Governor. We have started the process of impeachment. And we are asking that we are going to follow the due process.
Meanwhile, MCAs allied to UDA party have opposed the plan, saying that the Deputy Governor is being persecuted politically by Governor Simba Arati, saying that the accusations against him are baseless.
I want to distance myself from the happenings in the assembly, and as an MCA I want to request the Senate, because I know down there the MCAs have been compromised. He will have to come to the Senate.
Instead of governor focusing on service delivery, he has actually sponsored the removal of his own deputy, because the deputy has chosen to actually speak the truth in terms of poor service delivery.
Meanwhile, while the county assembly is expected to discuss the motion, Deputy Governor Robert Monda has said he will disclose the differences between him and his boss, Governor Arati. Fish farmers in Migori County have received 1.2 million shillings from the Nolan grant under the Aquaculture Business Development Program to boost the fishing industry in South Nyanza region. A BDP National Coordinator Sami Masharia confirmed that the program will support fish farmers in the county to fill nutrition gaps and build capacity for the agribusiness fishing community in the county. The Smart Kiosks initiative will provide global markets for Kenyans as well as cold storage facilities for fish preservations. The official affirmed that ABDP will also give grants to Nyeri and Vihiga counties. The grant project will also cover Tanzania and Mozambique to empower fish farmers in Africa. Tomato Sports and Gor Mahia head coach Jonathan McKinstry has warned his charges to step on the gas pedal and secure maximum points in the next league encounter against Nairobi City Stars. Kogalo will be facing their high-flying city rivals at Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos in a vicious Kenya Premier League top-of-the-table duel. The record Kenyan champions sit pretty at the apex of the log with 44 points, 7 clear of the second-place Simba wa Nairobi. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asata. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Thika Superhighway is giving people premium tiers this morning. Not quite sure what's happening here. It started really early. We thought that we would be fine as we get to the Pangani underpass, but not so much, because then look at what's happening on Outer Ring. Folks are also trying to join the Thika Superhighway, but again, it's not happening. We don't know what's going on here, but I need you guys. Can you give us a highlights of what might be happening there, heads up rather of what's going on, please do let us know. As you get to the Pangani underpass, it's going to slow down again and we get to bumper. Limuru Road also busy. Everywhere else in the city seems to have, settled down for getting into the weekend. We're looking at Huru Highway with some traffic here and there, but, doable. So talk to us about what's going on the Thika Superhighway. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag #TheSituationRoom.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
The only much for keeping it locked on SpiceFM, on YouTube, on Facebook. The conversations continue. And yes, today the stream has been stable, right? Very good. Very good. Ednah alifanya kazi.
Ednah woke up before even Ednah.
Ednah alifanya maombi. Alienda done very many things. It paid off, Ednah.
Well done.
Well done. Well done. This hour now we're going to have our Health Friday conversation. On this 16th day of February, we have to talk about mental health and focusing on men and the boy child. We're joined by Arthur Muturi. He's a psychologist with the Chiromo Hospital Group. Good morning, Arthur.
Good morning to you, sir.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you.
How does that make you feel sitting on that seat?
Special, I'll say. Thank you for honoring the boy child.
Very good. We will tell you about the Pan-African Bank that says a better way, a better Africa.
The Pan-African Bank that is in 35 different African markets, as well as 4 other markets around the world. Look, imagine a situation, and that's what the thing is, that you can imagine a situation whereby you wouldn't have to open and close accounts depending on which country you went to, but that you would just be on the platform and it didn't matter where you went, that you could just continue as if you were in Nairobi or if you were in Kampala and then moved somewhere else. And so EcoBank has provided a platform upon which you can operate seamlessly just because you're on the platform. And they've said, look, it's a better way to do business. And indeed, it is a better way. And because it's a better way, it's a better Africa.
Very good. Indeed it is.
Wow.
Let's welcome you with today's proverb as well. And this week, the proverbs are from Angola. Listen to the proverb, give us your interpretation of it. In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
Come up again.
In the larger affairs, the minor are forgotten.
In the larger affairs, the minors are forgotten.
The minor
are affected. Forgotten. Oh, well. That we tend to, forget the most important, probably. And probably focus on the bigger things, or the bigger picture. And in the long run, forget the small things that matters.
Makes sense. It makes sense. We are concentrating so much on the bigger picture. We forget that the bigger picture is actually a composite of smaller images details. And smaller details.
Someone said you cannot have 100 bob without the coins. So take care of the coins and the notes will take care of themselves.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. What's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist?
Well, they are all in the same field of mental health. But basically, a psychiatrist is someone who has, gone to school to study medicine. And after that, they decided that they want to venture in mental health, and therefore they focused on mental health, or they pursued their masters in psychiatry. Or a psychologist is someone who specifically go to school to study a degree in mental health, and specifically after graduating they now practice what we call psychotherapy. They give you therapy, or they carry out what we call counseling. So basically, the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist is that there is one who has the power to prescribe, and the other one doesn't have the power to prescribe. And that is a psychologist.
But both deal with all spectrum of mental diseases.
Exactly.
All of them.
All of them.
I see. And you said,
Yeah, it's interesting. Because then a psychiatrist then essentially would be able to prescribe medication or any other kind of, like you said, therapy that you need to go on. So oftentimes you think about it as you go in and you have a conversation with a psychologist.
Exactly.
But you would then go in and get treatment from a psychiatrist.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are some of the mental health issues that we're dealing with right now, for which people are coming in, or for which we hope more people would come in for?
We have two common, or the majorly known or common mental health disorders across the world, and that is depression and anxiety. The third one will come in is substance use disorders. But then mostly people come in the hospital because probably they are affected in terms of depression, or maybe they have anxiety, or probably I started by having, maybe I have anxiety or I have depression, and therefore I've started coping negatively by the use of alcohol or other drugs, and therefore I get into addiction. So majorly we have three, like depression, anxiety, and addiction. That is alcohol and substance use disorders.
Okay. What characterizes depression?
Depression is a mood disorder characterized by low moods, persistent low moods for at least 2 weeks. And then again, we have, loss of interest in the previously enjoyed activities. Then we'll have areas or elements whereby someone will be, feeling like they are exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and therefore they self-isolate. So this particular person can wake up one day and they feel very tired, very exhausted, but they don't even know why they are exhausted. And again, they might, start presenting with what we call psychosomatic symptoms, whereby you go to the hospital and you have a headache, but then again, when, you're taken to the lab, or the lab samples are taken, there is nothing that can show that or can prove that you're medically sick. But you yourself, you're feeling that you're sick.
Okay.
So those are some of the symptoms that can tell us that, this person is having depression. Yeah.
Anxiety?
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, anxiety is characterized by excessive fear and worry, and more so irrational thoughts, whereby now you have each and every other human being is normal to have fear and worry, but then again it becomes a disorder when now it is excessive, and now it is accompanied by irrational thoughts that prevents you from carrying your day-to-day activities normally. For example, there are people with anxiety anxiety is a spectrum with a number of areas here and there. So there are types of anxiety whereby people will fear heights. And they will say that I will not be able to come to work because I work on 5th floor, and that is preventing them from carrying their day-to-day activities. So someone else will look at it and say that, how are you fearing? Are you in fear of heights? But this person now is also carrying what we call the irrational thoughts. Probably they feel like, okay, if at all I take the 3rd floor, I'm gonna fall. Yeah.
So they will not enter a lift.
They will not enter a lift.
Okay.
But how do you then know that this one has become irrational? Because it's a fear. People have a phobia for heights, right? They'll not want to walk along an open balcony. They'll not want to stand on a cliff. They don't want to look down from a lift that has a glass window open. But when does it become irrational completely? You can say, okay, this one now is irrational, because some of those things just sound like, well, I mean, I fear insects.
Yeah. I fear going outside.
I run and scream when I see a small. What are these things that people scream
geckos.
about? Yeah, kwanza geckos. Someone screams because there's a gecko in the room.
Is that anxiety?
Is that, and when is it irrational?
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, we're not sending people to get into the KWS territories and they start facing the lion in the name of in the name of I don't have any kind of fear or anxiety.
Or I'm not being irrational.
Or I'm not being irrational. Yeah. But then again, we are looking at we must be able to gauge. Mm-hmm. For example, if at all it's Eric, the office is maybe that floor, and you used to take into that floor, and tomorrow you wake up with that particular fear of I don't want to go. I don't want to take the floor. I don't want to, use the lift. Why? You start saying that, okay, I'm going to fall. I'm going to, something going to happen. Probably the building is going to collapse. But then again, last week or last month, you're able to take that. So the question is, what is preventing you from, taking the lift or, going to the third floor right now? So this is something that is triggered by something. And we must go back and ask ourselves, okay, has this person behaved this way over time, or is this particular kind of fear starting or beginning the other day? So if at all it's something that has been there, or probably this person is born like that, or we don't even have the justification why they are behaving like this, then we must be do some assessment to gather why they are like that at that moment.
Okay, let's go back to the two ones that we're talking about here, depression and anxiety, and we're having that conversation towards men today, towards boys, because boys eventually become men. What are the causes of depression? And what would you say are the causes? Because you talked about depression being characterized by at least 2 weeks of feeling low. You're in that depressed state with no clear reason as to why. What causes these that you've been able to establish?
Okay, there are a number of causes that bring about, the issue of depression. And I'll say that we all get affected by something called stress. Stress is inevitable. Stress is for each and every other person. But then again, when stress now moves from a point we call acute to a point where we call it chronic level, that you are, unable to deal with it. So if at all you're chronically stressed and you don't have the right coping mechanism to, end your stress, then it can, get to a point whereby now it's giving you a mental disorder. And this mental disorder mostly and at times is depression. That is number one. Number two, relationships. Number three, genetics. There are people who are predisposed to just, to depression just because of their genetical makeup. But we are saying that not everybody will be like that. But at times we are genetically predisposed. Number three, we'll find that, work, and especially nowadays, people are not able to balance or to probably, strike a balance between work and life. So you have a lot of, targets, you have a lot of, pressure from work, and you're not able to handle this particular kind of pressure. So you carry that pressure, or you take that pressure as stress, and it gives you probably depression. And then again, the people who use alcohol and other substances are more likely to have depression also.
In men, we see and we hear of very many cases of mental health issues among men. And then there are very many things that are happening in society that, we casually want to slap the issue of mental health on it. We are not sure, but now you'll be here to confirm. We see increased cases of gender-based violence. We attribute it to mental health. We see increased cases of suicide among men. We attribute it to mental health. We see increased cases of just violence as a whole, and we say mental health. Is it true?
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, there is an increased rate of, issues to do with conflicts in relationships, and most of the times we are attributing it to the issues of mental health. It is true that, yes, at times mental health can make people, it impairs the thinking and the judgment. And when you're dealing with a partner who is mentally sick, or mentally ill, then it becomes very, very hard for you to have a very open and healthy conversation in a relationship. So most of the times when you'll, have conflict in between these, between the couples, and they are unable to resolve their matters positively. So I'll say yes to some extent, but then again, there are times when now there is no issues to do with mental illnesses. It is just an issue of maybe something like someone is, having what we call toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is not an issue of mental illness. It's an issue of, what you have picked, the attributes that you have, and you believe that a man should be like this in a relationship or a lady should be like this in a relationship, and therefore you have to fight. Yeah.
Okay. How do we see these things manifesting themselves? Because oftentimes, and I think it's just really having to deal with a lot of details here, how do you make the connection and say that, because of the way this individual has been behaving, then it is definitely a mental health issue? Is it possible that somebody could have, a bad few weeks and that they could come out of it? At what point do you say, no, the way Eric has been behaving, definitely this is
kuna kitu.
As opposed to, okay, well, it's just had a bad spot, he'll be fine.
Okay, I think you're attributing, or you want me to talk about the symptoms, or how do we know that this person is mentally ill?
Yeah.
So mental illnesses tend to affect three areas of three basic areas. Number one area is what we call the cognitive area. And with the cognitive area, this affects our thoughts. And when the thought area is affected, this person will end up having impaired thinking patterns. And this impaired thinking pattern will be will have irrational thoughts in it. We'll have something like poor judgment in it. We'll also have things to do with negative thinking, a pattern of negative thoughts that doesn't end. And therefore, Eric used to have, to be very okay in terms of his own thinking. But then again, we start noticing that, okay, this Eric is changing. Eric is having a lot of negative thoughts. Eric doesn't even have the hope for the future. That tells us that his cognitive area is getting affected. The second area is the behavioral area. And with the behavioral area, it's very good to know that it is actually the people who are around you who are going to notice that, oh, Eric is changing. The colleagues, your wife, your brothers, your sisters, the people who lives close to you are the one who are going to notice, oh, Eric is changing. Number one, Eric might start probably manifesting with issues to do with, getting to work late, something that he never used to do. Eric might start manifesting with issues to do with outbursts, emotional outbursts. He used to talk freely in a very open manner, in a calm way, but now every other statement that he's making, he must, show some outburst here and there. Then irritability. Something happens to you and, you are easily irritable over something that, people are asking, hey, did it warrant this kind of a reaction?
Jokes.
You get. And then there is a way that we have always, attached mental illness to, the issue of you becoming unkempt. But that is something that I want us to, challenge today. You can find someone who is walking in with a very nice suit, but they are mentally sick. So we no longer look at mental illnesses through how you're dressed and or probably how you're kept. Okay, but then again we say that it can get to a point whereby you get disorganized. Even the issue of organizing your own home becomes an issue. Even the issue of waking up in the morning and taking a shower becomes an issue. That is the behavioral area. There are a number of areas, but then before I forget, the area of behavioral in terms of the behavior. Some people can get to isolate themselves. You don't want to, get out and associate with the people. You want to lock yourself in your house. You don't want even to pick calls. You don't want even to answer the messages. Because nowadays it's not all about the physical isolation. You're also looking at it through the modern way. You have your phone. You go home and you don't want to pick calls. You had an arrangement next week, but then again, when that day comes, you're the one who create issues here and there and say
to avoid.
Hey man, there is something that came up, and I will not be with you. You're isolating because you're becoming emotionally exhausted.
What's causing this? You said, life pressures, but life has always had pressure. Are we saying there's increased pressure in the modern day for the man? And what's leading to all these things?
Well, yes, pressure is one thing, and you see, with the economical changes, the economy, the way it is changing, it's becoming hard on each and every other single day. And I want to take you back to the time when COVID, came in. And when COVID came in, people lost their jobs. It disorganized so many people, so many things. And out of that, we got so many cases of, mental illnesses because I have lost my business. I've lost my family. I've lost everything. So, every other change and every other loss affects a human being in a certain way. And human beings are not people who like, to imagine things or the fear of the unknown. So anytime that we have something that is quite unknown, quite uncertain, it affects this particular kind of an individual negatively. So with hard economic times, it is changing our own perceptions of life, and it is making people to cope negatively in one way or the other. And that is why there was a time that there was an article that was written by one of the newspapers of a drinking nation. Why are people drinking yet we have hard economic times? This person has 100 bob. Instead of saving their 100 bob or buying the unga, this person only chooses to take alcohol. Why? Because any time that we are faced with stressful situations, our body reacts by producing what we call the stress hormones, the cortisol hormones. And these cortisol hormones makes our mood goes down. And human beings are made to feel good. And that is why every other Friday you'll see people, working out to feel good. Or probably on Saturdays they want to get into, swimming pools and do all manner of things to make sure that they are enjoying. Therefore, if at all my moods is quite low, my body will react by, I will always be triggered to, just boost my moods, boost this particular kind of, we call them the dopamines, feel good hormones, to just feel good and be a human being.
There's the search for the dopamine.
The search for the dopamine.
That's treating them here. Do you think the socialization of the boy child is a problem? A boy child, socialized, and then there's a full expectation of society. Number one, you went to school, you graduated, you went to university, you graduated as a psychologist, you don't have a job. Or you graduated as a psychologist, people call you daktari, because all of you are doctors. And we are seeing how you're living. Maybe the job that you got is an entry-level job. You've been stuck in it for a while. The expectations that you also had when you were in school, by this time, by this age, I should be at this point, I should be. And you're not hitting those marks. And then back at home, you are expected to also start having these relations. So you have a relation, you have a girlfriend, you're getting into a relationship, and you are expected to be the provider. You are not meeting that end of the bargain. So are all these societal issues contributing to the mental health breakdown of the boy child?
Thank you so much. Anytime that I have a conversation about men, I always challenge them that we need to go back to the grounds on which we stand.
Okay.
And the grounds on which we stand is the grounds of culture. Every other human being, or probably us, the Africans, we are constructed by, the cultural norms. There is what the culture spoke to you as you're growing up as Eric. There is what the culture spoke to me as I was growing up. So I grew up knowing that a man should behave in a certain way. And I have adopted that to be like a psychological contract, whereby before I do anything, I must go back to that psychological contract and ask myself, am I doing the right thing as a man? Is the culture viewing me as a man when I do this? And therefore, some of the things that we have adopted and picked as we grew up, I'll say there are some of the attributes which are good, but then again, there are things that are quite toxic. For example, telling a man that, for you to become a man, you must, be, you must own something, or probably you must be somewhere in terms of, the money. I have had a number of sayings here and there, and I'll say it in Swahili, and allow me kindly, that mwanaume ni wallet. Yeah? It is true you need money. But do you know how much this particular kind of saying is making men, to push themselves to the corner to a point whereby you can't tell your wife, you can't tell your girlfriend that things are bad.
That hauna hata wallet.
Hauna hata your wallet. You see, so we are being pushed to the corner by the things that we are picking from. We picked as we grew up. We are being pressurized or being pressured by the culture to a point whereby I don't have job and I'm 40 years old. I'm still struggling. But then again, the culture expect me at 40 to have a wife. The culture expect me at 40 to have a proper functioning family. I must be having kids. My kids must be in a certain school. You see, so I end up taking this pressure, absorbing it, and because I'm not to that particular level, what happens to me? The pressure now starts consuming me. Again, I pick it starts getting into me as stress, and this stress now produces the stress hormone that we're talking about, and that is why even today you will notice that men cope quite negatively when it comes to pressure and when it comes to stress. I'll actually tell you that. Her gender, Hindu. Females are more likely to be affected by depression as compared to men.
Okay.
Yes.
Because?
Number one, their genetic makeups. Number two, that is genetic makeups. They have a lot of a number of hormones here and there, and they have, what do we call them? There is that imbalance of the interferences of the hormones here and there in terms of the monthly whatever cycle. We have the pregnancy. Then it comes to now in terms of what the culture has, placed upon them. She's expected to deliver here at work. She's also expected to deliver
at home.
And
deliver a baby.
You get. So there is a lot of pressure on her side as compared to the pressure that is on the side of the man.
However, are we not looking at a situation whereby there are other factors then that are involved here? And so that's why it makes it look as though it's so much more terrible when a man would then be depressed. Because, again, looking at social construct, that it is already naturally accepted that it would be seen that women have a buffer zone. Just because of that being in her feelings, she's more likely to share her experience with other people, be it another man, be it another woman, or even a man. Now, because of the solitude within which men have then been socially constructed, the likelihood of you sharing with another man is reduced. And that is why depression amongst men is so much more detrimental. Does that play out in any way?
That makes a lot of sense, and that is actually something that I was to touch on. When you look at, a woman will be affected. Let's say today, Hindu, you have depression and I have depression. You're more likely to go outside there and share and, cry, talk about it, in an open manner. As compared to a man, before I get to share, I go back to the psychological contract that I was, placed by my culture. And I ask myself, if I share that I'm going through this, I'm going to be viewed as a weak man. And then what happens? I end up, bottling up these particular kind of issues and my emotions. So I don't share, I don't open up, and I end up now feeling so bad, or probably my mood is going down, and I now start coping negatively with this particular kind of depression. Actually, in a certain survey that was done, they say that 40% of men say that they will never share about whatever they are going through unless they witness that they are having thoughts to do with self-harm, or probably they are having issues to do with suicidal thoughts. Yeah.
So that's social construct. No, let's take a break first. Okay. It's 26 minutes to 10. Our Health Friday conversation today is about mental health with specific focus to the men, boy child in the society. Arthur Muturi is a psychologist with the Chiromo Hospital Group. He's here. We have this conversation. We'll be back shortly after Ndu tells us about the traffic. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Right, so on the Thika Superhighway, I think we've seen a reduction of traffic now. Just as we get out of traffic hour, I think this is going to come down much more. I think we're all right for most of it. The underpass then from Kiambu Road, as you get towards Muthaiga Square and get on the underpass, I think that's going to slow you down just a bit. But apart from that, I think we're all right. Coming on Waiyaki Way, there's some traffic. It's getting into the city. But I think on Uhuru Highway is now where we see the most of it as folks are settling down into Friday morning traffic. Let's talk through the day on SpiceFM on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continues with Arthur Muturi, psychologist with the Chiromo Hospital Group. Boy-child mental health. You said there's a contract. There's an expectation of a boy child by the society and of the boy child to himself as he's growing up. I expect that, at this point, I should have hit this milestone. At this point, I should have hit this milestone. At this point, the society expects that I should have hit this milestone. I should be married. I should have property. I should have children. My children should be going to a good school. This and the other. If my children are misbehaving, there's a role of it. Are they looking at... So is this because of the father or is it because of the mother? If it's the father, there are areas that, okay, iwe mtu hata nyumba yake, hawezi hata kuchunga nyumba yake. Is this unrealistic though? Is it an unrealistic expectation to have by the society and by yourself?
Yes. I believe it's quite unrealistic.
Why?
Expectation. Why? Because number one, before I was, I'm a human being before I was a Kikuyu man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's the Kikuyu tradition that has taught me to be who I am, and it is the one that is giving me the perceived expectations.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other end, I'm a human being. A human being who is a man.
Mm-hmm.
So I operate as a man, as a human being. In terms of the milestone that I achieve, I'm achieving them as a human being, not as a man.
Mm-hmm.
Indu is achieving whatever she is achieving today as a human being, first of all, not as a female.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment we now start putting in the issue of gender and what have you, then we'll actually now, go to the limitations that are there. Of course, genetically, there are some of the limitations here and there. But now when we bring in the issue of culture, then we limit ourselves in a certain way. Because, Eric, your grandfather doesn't know the struggles that you're going through today.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't know that, okay, today there is what we call shared responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But the grandfather probably, I'm not saying that he told you that, probably, when you're growing up, he was telling you, or someone was being told, that to be a man, you don't expect a woman to provide.
Mm.
To be a man, you don't expect a woman to go to work.
Mm.
You don't school women.
Mm.
So these particular kind of expectations and whatever we are, perceiving and, pressuring ourselves today, sometimes it's unrealistic.
So how do you bring that reality? Because, okay,
There are some things that were happening then based on the reality of the times then. But many of those things have not changed. What is it that was making the society function and function well? It's because of that culture. That culture basically was shaping how people behave and how they relate with one another. It was helping the people know, okay, so at this particular age, you become of age. Okay? In Kikuyu, they say Kogimara. What is Kogimara? You grow up. Yeah, from this point, you move from being a boy to a man. So more responsibilities are added onto you.
Yeah.
And those responsibilities come, the expectations that come also with responsibilities, and there's how you are expected to behave, but then also there's rewards that come with it. Because of that, now you can start having your own family. Because of that, now you can start owning property. Before that, when you're a little boy, you could not own property. Now, because you are this, you can start owning property. You can start doing this and the other. And it was balancing it out. It seems like we are removing everything from this whole room and even removing the good things, which included the balance. And the balance was because of this expectation, because you are now expected that you are a man, you are going to do this, you are expected to provide counsel, support your unit of a family. So you may bring in the new dynamics that, okay, so we have shared responsibility. I can look after the children and my wife is at work. She can look after the children when I'm at work. She can bring in her income and we put it together. But there's an expectation that you are providing some sense of leadership. And that has not gone away from today's society. But we're trying to run away from it when it doesn't suit us.
I get your point of view, Mr. Eric. What we're trying to say is that culture has got two sides, right? There is the side, there is the positive side, and I understand that, yeah, it is a very important tool in terms of shaping and, giving us the direction. And without it, probably we'll be lost in one way or the other. But what we are taking right now, and what the modern world is taking, and especially the boy child, and what we are experiencing at the moment, is taking things to the extremities. In terms of the responsibilities, yes, it's there. But now this particular kind of a man wants to, perceive power in terms of the extremes. And today we want to push ourselves in terms of, Eric bought an Audi yesterday. I want to buy an Audi tomorrow.
So comparison and pressure is essentially what brings about these feelings. It's not necessarily the expectation of society. So the expectation of society, what I hear what Eric is saying, that in some cases is not necessarily a bad thing, that you should be able to then lead. If you're in the position of a man, because we also know that you're made up of your spirit, your ego, etc., which nobody wants to take away from you, right? But we're also saying that there's certain expectations, and I think men at some point do feel good in that position, whereby you are in a position of leadership, whereby you are then the one who is able to guide in a certain way, shape, or form. But I think another construct of society then is this issue of pressure.
Peer pressure.
Where, like you say, you've bought a vehicle today and you're hanging around in the same circles, and the pressure, dictated or otherwise, then is on you to do the same thing. And for whatever reason you are not able to, that starts to bring about these feelings. It is not the expectation of society, but it is the pressure that because somebody else has been able to do something, you feel as though you failed because you haven't, and that may not necessarily be true. You haven't failed. It's just that it has not happened for you yet.
I think it's a false creation of expectation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Peer pressure is you feel because this person has bought a new car and is the way people are looking at them, then you think that the entire society has elevated them. So in order for you to also be elevated to the same level,
you need to do the same or better.
You also need to look for, that whole conversation, like you said, that mwanaume wallet. So if we see this guy has wallet because he bought a plot of land and he has started to build, and you have not bought a plot of land, are therefore not anywhere close to starting to build, then
so the emasculation of the man begins from there. Is it not?
Majorly perceived.
Right.
Perceived all.
It's a perceived expectation.
Right.
You see,
So
that is taken
where-
to the extremities.
Yeah. So where do buffers come in? Because usually we'll say, oh, come on, man, you go talk about it and you'll be fine. Go hang out with your boys. You get over yourself. Have a conversation. But we already know that men are not socially built that way. To then go and have a conversation about it. Would you advocate for that? To actually be honest about opening up and saying, look, this is where I feel, man. You never know when somebody then can. The people who are around you, whether it could be a woman, it could be your friends, the people who are around you, what purposes do they serve in order to get you off, essentially, the ledge as a man?
Very, very important. And I think this is where the picture of the perceived, unrealistic expectations and how what the culture is expecting from us comes in. Because if I am going through an issue and I know very well that I don't even have what it takes to solve this particular kind of a situation, I'm expected to go out and seek help. But then, if I have the perceived, narrative that when I talk about what I'm going through and my weaknesses, I'll be perceived in a certain way.
You'll be perceived
by
as
the
weak,
society
can say
as
it.
weak.
Yeah.
So I'll end up not sharing. And how many men are doing that today? So yes, it is one of the most important thing as human beings do is to make sure that you're sharing. You're asking for help. And that is where resilience comes in. You're more resilient actually by, mobilizing the resources that are around you to make sure that you're moving on or you're bouncing back to, where you are. So sharing is one thing. But I always say that at times when we talk about crying is important. A lady will go out and she will cry. But then again, when a man cries, Eric, you lose so many things in front of your kids.
Street cred.
Right?
Cred. Unaliaje kama mtoto.
But does that not... I think that's very interesting that you say that. But doesn't that then... What it does is that it actually shows and it sounds crazy, but doesn't it actually then show your strength? Because what you're able to do is show that you're comfortable with being vulnerable. It has nothing to do with who you are. It has everything to do with how you're able to handle things. That's why I feel terrible when I hear people tell little boys... Don't cry, don't show your emotions. Because what you're doing is that you're setting this young boy up to be a man in the future who is not able to be vulnerable with how he feels and be honest about his position.
You're feminizing the boy.
Are you? Yeah. By saying be in touch with your emotions? No. I'm not saying cry all the time. But you say, don't show your emotions. Don't talk about it. If you're upset, don't say you're upset. Just be this stone in the corner somewhere. And that's a little boy who's 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
What happens when this boy grows older?
Okay. And this is where I want to come back to culture. All right, Arthur? So even in those traditional days, it was not okay to cry. But there was a system that helped you do it. There was a system that the whole thing of support, there was a support system that works. Whether you talk about, this sub-clan, people know each other, you belong to this sub-clan and member of this sub-clan usually meet every so often for whatever functions and things are happening. You can be seen you're struggling on one thing, the other members of your sub-clan come in, your siblings come in and they support without necessarily having to tell you, hey, we notice you don't have livestock. So we are going to give you life. No, you just find a way of
starting you off.
Yeah. Giving you stuff. But there's that support. We don't have that support anymore. And you will not go looking for that support. It would be easier for the woman to do it. It would not be easier for the man to do it. And I think we are trying to force this square peg through a round hole by saying, you know what, women talk about it and you see how they're able to handle things. Men, you also need to start talking about it. Square hole, round peg.
No, it sounds strange, but I actually agree with you on that. I don't think, and I really think this is an issue, and perhaps maybe we need to come to the place where, we can actually be open and have this conversation. It is not possible for two genders that are fundamentally different for you to use the coping mechanisms that a woman would use and ascribe that to men. I think it doesn't work just because the makeup is different. And I think every time we want to say be like the other, and I think that's what got us in this mess in the first place. Be like somebody else is what gives this man pressure when it doesn't work. So should we not be at the point whereby we are saying the coping mechanisms that were used before, I'm not saying reintroduce them, but I'm saying that there have to be ways. And perhaps that's where these studies, when people come into the office to sit down and have a conversation, that there have to be ways that are likened to the way you are as a man, that is going to see that you are able to cope with the things that come to you as a result of being a man. And that why are we not having those conversations? Why are women not supporting those conversations? Why are women not saying, well, no, you don't have to sit down with a box of tissues and chocolates and have a conversation with me? No, you don't. But are there ways in which we can actually say, look, man, we need to support these guys a lot more. We need to, understanding that they're fundamentally different, whereby it's been accepted that women deal with it in this way. But we're seeing more and more men who are suffering. But we are trying to say, put a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't work because of how they are socially constructed.
Sure.
Should we not be looking at other avenues to deal with this and reduce the numbers of these things that we are seeing in society today?
Actually, I'd say it's true. And I was like saying, if Eric is going to cry today in front of his kids, his ego will tell him that he has lost a number of things here and there. So it's good to pay attention, and it's good to, respect the fact that men are constructed differently with women, like Indu is talking about. And it's good to come up with avenues that respect or acknowledges that this is a man and probably he needs this particular kind of avenues for him to be able to open up and share. And we are talking about men being able even to create their own support group, like Men's Cave, whereby you when you become vulnerable in such kind of forums, you are embraced as a man, and you're able, to move on in life, and you're able to, the other men are able to tell you that, okay, at this juncture, do this and this. Bring this on board, and you'll be able to bounce back. But then again, Eric, I'll say directly to you that today, the other killer of a man is a fellow man. I'll come to you, Eric. I'll be vulnerable to you. But the next minute, you'll tell me what?
Acha mama.
So what will make me to go to what will make me again to come to you and respect and tell you my stories? I come to you that, okay, I'm having issues in my relationship because I'm treating my wife like this, and you'll tell me, well, man, why are you like that? Why are you in that relationship? Move on, man.
Get out.
Get out. You get umekaliwa. So we need also to acknowledge that even us on our own levels as men, we are killing a fellow man.
Because we don't know. You see, it's because you don't know how to react. When somebody comes to you and they tell you, I'm having these issues with my wife, this and the other, you don't know how to react. Or if someone comes to you and tell you, I'm having challenges with, I'm thinking work, money, you have your own. So you don't know. So do I lend you money? What do I?
Yeah, that's a quick solution. You want a solution now so we can stop this emotional thing.
How do I sort you out? Shida nini pesa?
Wacha tuone kama
sasa siwezi kupatia hizo zote. I don't want to give you all the money so that we've created sasa you'll be coming to me also. So we don't know how to do it. Don't know how to handle it. Don't know how to move on from there. So you're trying to, as much as possible, as quickly as possible, appear to be giving this guy a solution. So you move. And that's how we are wired. And that's why women sometimes complain that she has come from work, she's sitting there, she's ranting and wailing, ranting and raving. I just about to use the word itching with a B at the beginning. About her day at work. And you're already starting to give her solutions. Maybe you should. She says, I was not looking for a solution.
Offload.
I was just offloading. Like, why are you telling me? So why are you telling me if you don't want me to give you a solution? We are wired to be like that. You come to me with an issue, I'm already thinking, okay, so what's the problem here? How do I break down this problem?
How do I fix it?
How do I start fixing this problem? From what angle do I approach it? How do you address that then?
By just acknowledging that we are human beings and we are emotional beings. Now, when you acknowledge that you have emotions, when you acknowledge that, okay, at times you'll feel like you're on your lowest and you're sad. So acknowledging those particular kind of emotions is very, very key. And number two, paying attention or giving someone time is not all about money. We have seen and we have received men who have, billions, but then again they are still depressed. Why? Because it's not all about money. It goes beyond money. So let's be able to see beyond the finances. Let's be able to see beyond the fact that I need to give a solution in terms of money and what have you, and see the emotions themselves for what they are. You come to me, you're crying because you lost your marriage the other day. I see the fact that you are, you love that lady. You've lost your family. Let me see a human being before I see,
See, okay. Tukutafutie dem.
And this kind of conversation, unfortunately, they happen in the clubs. Yeah. So when you meet Eric in the club, he will definitely call the waiter and ask, the unfortunate part of it. Yeah.
It's laugh, but it's actually true. That's what happened.
And what I can tell men this early morning is that we need to acknowledge and we need to take a step at a time. I've lost a job today. Let me take the process of looking for that job. I don't have cash right now. My finances are sick. Let me take time to build those finances, a step at a time. And also opening up to your lady and telling them, this is my financial status.
We men.
Because this pressure is not only coming from, perceived. It can also come from the other gender.
Yep.
I think most times it does, if we want to be honest.
Yes.
I think a lot of the pressure, in as much as men are seeing their fellow men succeeding here and there, I think there's a lot of pressure. And
from
look,
the
I
woman.
think there's women who give men a lot of pressure. And I know the feminists will come for me with cannons and go and Kashalnikovs today. But it's true that I think there is also a certain amount of reprieve that we can give these fellas. As we go through this thing. And, I think there's sometimes where we need to take a moment and say, okay, you can see where this guy is. If you also know his status. He can pretend, but at the end of the day, you're going to know when you give him this pressure, what do you expect him to do? I think there's a lot of support that can come from females as well.
Exactly.
I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and he talked about there's what we call the wokeness of the modern day woman, and whether that is having an effect on the man, and whether that's why the men are now going into these other groupings, and maybe it's coming out like they're also being toxic masculine. What is this wokeness of the woman? It has raised expectations as a woman. I mean, if a man who loves you will listen to you, will take you for who you are, will support your goals, will do this and the other, will do this and the other, and the other side of a man who loves you needs your support is not mentioned. A man who loves you needs to be acknowledged for the love that he's giving you. A man who loves you needs to be seen for the human that is there. No, we are equating it to he will do all these things for you. So the bar is right up there.
Yeah, if you love me, you'll spend on me.
Yeah. If you love me, you will do this and the other.
It's true, is it not?
And then I will just be checking the boxes. Did he spend on me? Is he buying me gifts? Is he doing this and the other? You get into a marital relationship. The man who loves you will not shame you in front of others. So when you're in this chama and all the children are going to this group of schools and our children are not, we're in this chama and these guys are all moving into these big estates, and the guy has gotten a new job and they're moving out of the country and you're not. That pressure, boss.
It's too much. You should become the chairman of the, boy child.
He is.
Arthur, you need to come again and again and again. And we keep having these conversations. And then next time we come, we open up the phone lines and let's hear. Let's hear from both men, women, and marketing for Hustler is saying men, women, and the other genders as well.
I like to give men our numbers, probably if they can be able to call, because we have a toll-free number that they can call anytime, and it's very, very simple. It's actually 0800 220 000.
0800 220 000. That's
Yes,
the number. Men, just call, speak to somebody on the other end. That's the Chiromo Hospital Group. Ada Muturi is a psychologist working with the Chiromo Hospital Group, has been our guest. Thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room this week. Have a lovely weekend.
Spice up your life.
Thank you.